to the trucking.
Okay, we just went live, so the public will be able to join. It looks like we have a quorum, so Mimi, if you want to start kicking us off.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's NAB meeting. It's an eventful weekend with Super Bowl and Valentine's Day, and then we woke up to snow. So how about that? It's nice that we broke our dry streak. We definitely needed this. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting today, February 15th. And with that, Nick, could you please start us off with the roll call?
Absolutely. So Mimi Fuji Strickler.
Here.
Steven Schwartzer. He texted me and he'll be a little late. Patrick Fisher.
Here.
Julia Hammett.
Here.
Jack Heineman.
Here.
Donna Keats.
Oh, sorry. Here.
Oh, I hear you. Tyler Langdon.
Here.
Mara Langer.
Here.
Is it Langer or Longer?
Langer.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry about that. Hal R. Taylor. He sent me a text as well. Councilmember Naomi Dewar.
Here.
Myself,
And it looks like we have a quorum, Mimi.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's so great to see everybody. I apologize, I missed last month. I too got, plague, and so now I'm all better. But it's so wonderful to see everybody on the call today. Do we have any public comment today, Nick?
I'm going to look at the attendees. I don't see any hands raised just yet.
Okay, just yet, so no public comment. All right, that's going to take us to approval of agenda. So do we have any changes or anything to change on the agenda this evening, Nick?
Yes, so RTC has asked if we could move their item to March.
Okay, and that was item number
That would be item number B3.
B3. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. We're going to move item B3 to March. Any other changes?
None on my end.
Okay, excellent. So with having the recorded change of moving item B3 to March, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move to approve the agenda. Donna Keats.
Second, Julia Hammett.
Yeah, all those in favor say aye, the change and the approval? Aye, excellent. Okay, agenda is approved with the change of B3 moving to March. All right, moving on. Approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Is there any changes to the minutes or comments on the minutes? No changes, no comments. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from November 16th, 2021 and December 14th of 2021.
I have a motion to approve the minutes for November and December 2021.
I'll second.
All right, I've got a first and a second, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Minutes approved. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to A5, our council liaison report. Councilwoman Dewar, welcome and hello.
Hi there. Good to see everyone. Really excited to be here. As I get started, I wanted to just mention that I see Councilmember Devin Reese is in attendance here today. So welcome, Councilmember. I don't know if you're just into listening in or want to be on the panel, but either way, we're saying hi. The last meeting, I gave a pretty lengthy update. And so I thought to balance it all out, I would give a little bit shorter update today, but no less scintillating or important. The first thing I wanted to mention is that there's a special item on horses. So all I was going to say right now is that we had a tremendous turnout for the Virginia Range Horse Workshop. And I want to say it was about, I think, Nick, around 250 attendees. I never got that confirmed. I know that many had signed up, but I don't know how many were actually in attendance.
I think it was around 150 to 200.
150. Okay, good. And then I also wanted to mention we have a pretty robust agenda next council meeting on Wednesday. And I just wanted to pull out 2 items on that agenda. One is that we are planning to go out and get authorization to sell the bonds. That would include covering the Moana swimming pool or aquatic center. And so I just wanted people to know that we are moving along with the design. My understanding is we're at about 30% design on the project. And now it is time to go do the bond sale. I happen to be chair of the Debt Management Commission, where after you approve an item like this, any of the governments, Sparks, Reno, the county, and anybody else that's in our community that's selling bonds, they go to the Debt Management Committee, which covers all Washoe County. And I think I've been chair of that for about six or 7 years. And we review the proposal. There's a board of 7 people. One of the board members is the former CFO of Washoe County, John Sherman. So he's extremely great to have on there because he used to be staff to this committee when he worked at the commission at Washoe County. And so he's great. And a number of the members have been on there a long time, so they're very experienced. So it's a great group to work with. They're actually meeting this week. And so our staff, normally the bond sale that we would approve next Wednesday should have happened right before this meeting. And so they're going to actually ask us to have a special meeting. So we're going to work on that, getting that set up. So I just wanted to let you know progress is being made there. Another thing that's on the agenda is that we all have a little bit of council donation funds. You may be familiar with it. It's not a lot of money, but it enables us to help a special project or help a special community event or a nonprofit. And one of my donations that's on the agenda is very much directly related to our ward. And that is that the Damani Ranch High School reached out to us and asked us if we would be willing to help pay for some outdoor picnic tables so that the students could eat outside and hang outside. So you know what I said, of course. It would be my pleasure. And so that's on the agenda this time. And I believe we're going to be able to buy 2 picnic tables is what I understand with that. I also wanted to just mention that the tree ordinance, all of the public comment process has finished. And they're going to, they're apparently evaluating the public comment that they got. And then they're going to have some additional meetings with the Urban Forestry Commission and talk about what they heard. And then it is on track to maybe come back in the May timeframe, but I wouldn't be surprised if that slipped a little bit. I think some public comment is still coming in, to my knowledge. I think Kelly, who is Kelly Mullen, who's organizing this, extended the period a little bit, told people, well, if you still have comments, send it on in. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we're having a very special event, and that is the day before the council meeting, we're having pretty much an all-day event for the purpose of talking about affordable housing. And I think everybody knows affordable housing's been one of the council's top priority, sort of goes hand in hand with homelessness, in that we want to make sure people do not become homeless and that they keep housed and that they are able to stay housed. But one of the challenges right up to, I did an interview yesterday on a gentleman that is not in our ward, but reached out to me and asked for help. His rent was going up 36%, which is already bad enough. But when I asked him what his rent was 2 years ago, it turns out that his rent 2 years ago was $500. His rent right now is about $877, and it's scheduled to go to $1,200. And so when you add that all up, that's about 140% increase in 2.5 years. And so it gives you a sense of what's happening. At the same time, more affordable housing projects are coming online. And I posted about one on my Facebook, which is called Vintage at Sanctuary. It is just a block north of Moana, just out of our ward. And it's a product that's focused on seniors. The rents are going to be something like $780 to $980, right in there. A lot of people saw the top end, $980, and got upset and said, well, that's not very affordable for me, people who were commenting. But I pointed out to them that there was also units that were in the 700s. But the main point here is they brought on over 100 units of what is aimed to be 60% AMI, which means that it's not your lowest cost housing, but it's also not 80%, which is also referred to as workforce housing. So I bring this all up to say this is a very charged topic in our community, and it has been for some time, and it's only getting really more charged. And I expect that we will have very lively conversation. I tweeted out about it, and people are already responding on Twitter. As I mentioned, one of the news stations called up and did a quick interview with me about some of my thoughts about this. And we have a couple options. And but what I'm really interested in is hearing from you all and hearing from the community if there are some top of mind things. And I like to take this time of the council member update just to, you are the neighborhood advisory board, and your opinion is important to me. And you may not have anything top of mind right now, but even if I reopened this item later towards the end, maybe you would have some recommendations or thoughts for me. There are some things we've been talking about at council for quite some time. Things like inclusionary zoning. The legislature made a change and made it possible for us to do. So I expect that may come up at the meeting. We will also be undoubtedly talking about affordable housing projects that we want to partner on to construct, whether with a private developer or with the Reno Housing Authority or both. There will also be discussion undoubtedly about ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units. We kind of took a run at it about 3 years ago. There was some concern about those at that time. The flavor may have changed by now, the interest level. People may have given it some more thought. Some of the things I would like to see are some quicker ways to get money out to people. That I just gave you an example where a person just got a pretty steep rental increase for them, $300. And in this particular case, just to use them as an example, that leaves $400 for the rest of their month based on their paycheck. That's for food, that's for gas, that's for car insurance, that's for any medical things that come up, that's for vet bills, that's $400. Gas and water are included with this person's housing, so they don't have to worry about that. But $400 is still not a lot of money for a birthday gift or Valentine present or whatever. That's just think about it to yourself, $400. So some of the people with the increase in that particular complex can't even afford that extra $300. They will basically be unhoused at that point. And so I brought it up in our agenda review today, and I just said I would love to see where we have a more comprehensive program that if someone is not able to afford their rent increases and they are looking at maybe having to go to the CARES campus as a kind of a last resort, is there a process, a more seamless process where we can provide them the panoply of options available to them? Are there rental vouchers? Are there, other low cost housing? Are there lists that they can get on for lower cost housing? All of the things that we usually do one by one, not in a very kind of comprehensive way. And the other thing that's really been worrying me is the fact that a lot of times when you go to sign up for programs, it's complicated. I mean, I once helped a person sign up for SNAP, which is food stamps, and the paperwork's incredible. I was struggling with it, and I can only imagine anybody would be struggling with it, how to fill it all out. And that's why they have people to kind of help you through the process. So I'm going to end right there, and I'm going to let you just think about that. And if there's towards the end of the meeting, I'd like to get some thoughts from you about some other things, unless you want to do it right now. And I'll ask our chair. I know we have an item taken off our agenda, so it's created a little more time, but I do want to give you a few minutes to think about it and not just kind of top of mind. So what's your thought, Mimi?
Thank you, Councilwoman Dewar. It's such an important topic in our community right now, for sure.
Yeah.
So let me let me ask the board if, if I do know, it looks like we do have a public comment on this as Bruce, but would you guys like to entertain a little bit more of a discussion right at the moment regarding this, the affordable housing subject?
Okay, well, that's fine. Why don't we hear a few comments? I've got my pen ready, and I'm interested in what you have to say and also what our member of the public has to say.
Okay, so let's see who's got their hand. Okay, Donna has her hand up. Donna?
I wanted you, Naomi, you were mentioning this 100 units. Seeing, I'm curious, I somehow missed what you said. That was north
Oh,
of
well,
Moab.
there's a new affordable housing project that is just developed by Green Street, Dane Hilliard. And I'm going to just pull up the address, so just to be clear
Okay.
on what that is. So you'll have that right at hand. It is, let me see here. I have it posted. But anyway, keep going and I'll pull up the address. It's very close to kind of near the intersection of Moana and Virginia on Gentry, right near there.
So is that undergoing approval process right now?
No, it's just built.
Oh,
They're
finished. Cool.
finished.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. It's called, again, the Vintage at Sanctuary. It's 301 Gentry Way. And I did a whole post on it on my Facebook, but I tell all about it, what they have. It's on about a 2.75 acre parcel. It's brand new. It's 208 units. I already told you it's aimed at 60% AMI, or average annual median income. And so it's a 55 plus community, seniors. And it has a lot of amenities, frankly, and also supportive services. So, okay.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
You bet. Mara?
So I, of course, lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the affordable housing event, you said that's going to be before the
It's
council
on
meeting?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, this coming Tuesday
Yes.
at the chamber?
At the chamber, it'll be in person, but there'll also be a virtual option.
Okay, and then
Starts at 10.
I have at 10. Okay. And then I have a question for you. I've been getting a lot of information about Unite Nevada. It's like a platform to pull organizations or for an individual to go in and get social services and have a one-stop dashboard. Opportunity Alliance is putting together some workshops. I'm happy to send that to you so you can see what it is. I haven't participated yet, but I plan on doing it on the 23rd, just so there is something that's trying to make a centralized resource for people in a house, like a
Fantastic.
yeah,
Clearinghouse
a
or a
clearinghouse.
dashboard or
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll send that to you during this meeting.
that'd be great to know about. Julia?
All right, these are, like you said, you would rather have sort of more thoughtful things, and but this is something that's been
That's fine.
bothering. This is something that's been bothering me for some time is we put people, we give them these spaces and the assumption is that they're just sort of dwelling, and this one sounds better, that there are some services. We don't know what exactly services there are, but I would really like us, the city, to encourage all apartment complexes, affordable housing complexes, to have some sorts of community spaces and community gardens.
Okay.
So, because people need more than just a place to sleep. They need a sense of community. And it's more grounding, and it will help people, especially people on tight budgets, if they could grow some of their own vegetables, and also participate with other people in gardening. And you might even find people like Urban Roots or some younger people that want to come help them, and build that sense of community within those dwelling centers.
Right. Okay. I will just tell you, reading off of the spec sheet, it said every aspect of the building, floor plans, community facilities, outdoor spaces, on-site services, as well as this ideal central Reno location are designed to precisely fill the crisis level gap of housing needs not being met for lower income senior citizens in Northern Nevada. They do mention green space and they do mention community facility, but I haven't been there. I am going to go at the grand opening, which is March 15th. If anybody would like to come, March 15th at 11 a.m. It's a Tuesday. I'm definitely planning to attend, but they are already filling up. And so I really appreciate that comment, Julia. Those are some great thoughts for me to share with the group next Tuesday. Anything else? Anyone who would like to share now?
Did
Or we could take-
everybody happen to see the article in the paper yesterday about the rents? What about what the average rents are in our community?
I didn't see it yesterday, but I have seen it very recently. What did you see?
It's
$1,000. It's $1,000 and even the, right, or even over that, and not the
Oh, it's over
areas,
that.
and the areas that were the most affordable are no longer even affordable.
Well, I just gave you an example of an area that's right downtown that was $500 for a 1-bedroom. This was just 2.5 years ago. It's now $1,200.
Yes. So we're looking at 14, 16, 1,800, 1 bedrooms that are 1,200, 2 bedrooms now are, getting driven up to 1,800, $2,000. And so, and then the earlier, maybe it was last week, the median housing price is now over $600,000 for a average home. Median is over $600,000. I just, I'm just floored and I'm extremely worried and concerned about where this is going for our community. I mean, I have a daughter. She lives in a 1-bedroom apartment over by Medwood Mall, has no washer and dryer. She started out at 800. Now she's close to 1,200. And, I just for our folks out in the community, it's gonna drive everybody out. And there's where Julia and I live, they're building a new apartment complex. They're 3 stories. I believe it's a Tanamera. I think those things are gonna be ridiculously priced.
Is this at the site that was reserved for a movie theater?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all,
we've seen the sign out there for 20 years.
Yes.
Not exaggerating.
So it all happened during COVID when everything was shut down. The traffic's going to be a nightmare. Let's just start there with that intersection. But 3 stories, that's a lot of people on that corner on that site.
Of Longley and Virginia.
And Longley and Virginia. And then I think that if it's a Tanamera project, it's probably going to be $1,800 and higher. I mean, I think it's going to be a very high price point. And I was over at Damani over there off of over there by RC Willie today. So Damani and that area. And I saw there's another ginormous apartment complex being built there as well. So I see all these apartment complexes getting built in our ward. And I think that in our ward, we have the highest price point for housing.
It's very possible. I will tell you that I had Nick, I asked Nick and he did prepare some information about affordable housing, about rent control, about all of the related topics. And, The Economist in general, or some of the articles he read were, that it's kind of like the solution to pollution is dilution. Well, the solution to prices is quantity, right? Supply and demand.
Correct.
But I asked Nick to do some research to actually see if there's any articles that show that when more housing product is actually added, does it drive down prices or stabilize prices or have no impact on prices? So he's doing some research on that.
That's great.
To help us just sort of navigate this a little bit. And he's also, yeah. So any other thoughts? Donna? You're on mute,
Donna.
I know, I'm so sorry. I keep this,
Okay.
throwing that up. Yeah, it's interesting they bring that up. I've read a lot of the urban studies related to this, and you can find data to support anything that you want, mostly, like as in most topics. But there's an awful lot of information that indicates that overbuilding is not necessarily the solution, because you just kind of, you move, densify, you move, you gentrify, you knock people out, like what's happening here. Now, the economics of it, it's the economy of scale argument that council's been saying for so long, doesn't really work, because prices will not come down until there are vacancies. You know, so first you have to have so much housing that you have a lot of holes that people need to lower their prices. And it doesn't happen in the kind of timeline we need it. So right now, my feeling is we're building all these massive blocks of buildings that have no interior green spaces, no park spaces, no adherence to master plan principles about community. And I find that really disturbing. And now we're talking about a whole lot of people who are recently unhoused or soon to be unhoused because of these skyrocketing rents. Yet we have some policies in place that are encouraging nothing but building more huge blocks with no green spaces at exorbitant prices. And the developers all say, well, that's the cost of business right now because the materials and labor are so high, which I totally get. But I think that there must be a more creative way to approach this, because the intense densification of every single square inch you can find creates a different set of problems. I mean, it's not like a worldview kind of solution. And I wish I had a more productive thing to say about what to do, but to me, it's almost looking in some ways like that we have to have more legislation about percentages of large new complexes that hold to at least 80% AMI for workforce level people. So at least people can afford to live here and work here, even if they have jobs, without the entitlements. But that's a requirement that could be legally done. That maybe there's not.
Well, one thing you're bringing up, Donna, I think that's really important, is the timeline for everything. I mean, a lot of people have gotten approvals to build things, and they've been stymied by the difficulty of getting materials, the supply chain, the lack of labor, skilled labor, to build these complexes. So a number of projects, I just read another one that said the whole thing was built, except they couldn't get the garage doors, so it was just on hold. Now, maybe that's just a problem for the next 6 months, and maybe things will even out. But I think that you bringing up a point is that, will it take a decade to build the housing and have the housing and the people sort of equalize? And the other issue that I'm really struggling with is wages. I mean, the gentleman whose apartment, for example, went up $300, works at a casino. He did not get $300 more a month in wages. Some of these folks got 55 cents to 65 cents increase, during COVID. Some people got a bonus for staying in their job. Maybe it was $500, but that could get eaten up in 1 month, with the price increases we're seeing. So that's where my struggle is just balancing the wages, which basically means that the people that are living and working here now, who are not the people that are coming in, maybe for some higher paying jobs or some jobs that require higher level of skill or different type of skill. I think we have a real mismatch, in other words, between the employment and the housing. What the people can afford, where the housing is, where they work. Maybe they work all the way out at Trick, but they need to come this way to get housing. So there's a lot of complexity to this. So Julie, I see you have your hand raised too. And then I'm just going to take 1 or 2 more comments, because I know we have a lot of people waiting for agenda items tonight. So
Mine is quick, and I put it in the chat, but I just want to add into this frustration is everything is going up. Food is going up, healthcare is going up, fuel is going up, and we're pricing workers out of everything. And I've noticed that a lot of small businesses in town, at least on our side of town now, magically have brand new either Dodge Ram or Mercedes vans. And I'm wondering if a lot of the money that the federal money they got that we theoretically thought was going to be passed through to help with wages, ended up, the banks convinced them to just go ahead and get an asset. But I don't know if a study's been done in our county. Maybe or maybe we could ask, but have wages gone up? I mean, the national average theoretically is that the wages have sort of gone up with almost matching inflation this past year. but not me. I mean, I don't know how many people
Yeah.
experience that in Nevada or even in our county. And I'll shut up. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. I did ask Nick to pull the wage data too before the workshop on Tuesday. And I will point out that I went to an EDON seminar about meeting recently, a lunch. Well, it was a whole event, and they had an excellent presentation by Brian Bonifant, who, you know, does a great job on this. And so we have very recent data on a lot of this. So I'm sure our staff will present it to us on Tuesday, a lot of this information. So we had a public comment as well, Mimi, I think. Do we want to
Yes,
hear
we
from?
had, we
Okay.
had a general, we had a Bruce Gamino. Bruce, are you there? Nick, is Bruce still there?
You're on mute, Nick.
Bruce is here. I just need to promote him so that he'll be able to speak.
Okay, great.
While Bruce is coming on, I just encourage you, anyone listening in the Zoom room or off, to feel free to send me some comments in advance of this meeting. Bruce,
Hello.
welcome.
Hi there. So I'm actually a neighbor of Donna Keats's. So hi Donna,
Oh.
how's it going? I didn't know
Hi,
you were on
Bruce.
I didn't know you were on the NAB. Hey, the thing is, I got a notice from for the Sierra Senior Care PUD amendment. And that's what I wanted to talk about, because they want to change their PUD back to 100 units, 100 units of low income housing. Oh, there I am. So I thought we had settled this 10 years ago, and I can't believe we were fighting over this again, but that was what I intended to actually talk about. The flyer they sent out says that this is being held in Ward 1 next month.
So Bruce, I want to jump in here. Due to the redistricting that just happened, you and Donna are actually in Ward 1 now, which is why that says that. Donna does still participate in the Ward 2 NAB, but you both live in Ward 1.
Okay. So that's why I just wanted to make sure, because we hadn't heard about it. So I guess Donna, do we know what we're doing about this, or?
Well, why don't I just answer? So I have a meeting with the developer. I think it's next week to find out what's going on. I didn't get your notice that you got, and to your point, it is in Ward 1. I don't know the timeframes, but Nick does support Ward 1. And Nick, do you know, is it going to a Ward 1 agenda soon?
It'll be on the March 14th. Agenda,
Yeah, so I mean, the
which I
thing
think
is,
it says on the card. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to talk over everybody, but we did fight about this. I mean, we only had 200 plus people show up at the city council. I can't believe that we're doing this again. What's the point of a PUD if they can just come back and try to change it back to the way it was in the first place?
I don't know. You know, I wasn't on council when there was a first place, but I heard about it. And I heard that it had been changed from apartments to the skilled nursing and the independent living out front on Mountain View. And then if you recall, the back 2 acres, they came back for another PUD amendment, and the back 2 acres was approved for 44 units of affordable housing. And so that was built. And at my suggestion, they were bringing in a couple of veterans, and I suggested they make the whole thing veterans. And that's what they actually did, to my knowledge, was make all 44 units for veterans. This particular one, I don't know that it is actually affordable housing like we've been talking about. I think it's market rate.
They said that they said the front 30 units will be affordable housing. So, so the thing is, I mean, that's like I said, so that's what I originally planned on it. But if you guys would bear with me also, since you were talking about affordable housing, and just to put my 2 cents on it, I worked in a casino, and that's how I paid for my apartments. But I had at one time a 12-plex, a 7-plex, a triplex, and 5 rental houses. And to speak to why the rents are going up as much as they are, you guys have to remember, with COVID, 2 things happened. You couldn't evict anybody, and the state actually lengthened the amount of time it takes to evict somebody. So it actually goes, you're looking at 2.5 months. So what you're basically seeing is one of the reasons rent is going up is that everybody who pays their rent is paying for people who don't. Because if you have to eat, say your rent's $1,500 a month and you don't pay for 2.5 months, plus all the legal fees, you're looking at taking all that, $4 or $5 grand for that one person and then redistributing it back into everybody who actually pays. So the problem is that the state, by doing what it's done to lengthen things for COVID and make things harder to evict people, you just basically took that entire chunk of money that those people didn't pay and tacked it on to everybody else. So I would just put that out there, because a lot of it sounds like, oh yeah, these guys are getting rich. I had to take out a $30,000 loan to support my apartment building because I couldn't evict my tenants, right? Which I managed to pay back to go to whoever council member said, hey, they're buying cars or whatever with it. No, everybody actually took that government money and spent it on what they were supposed to. They kept their employees employed. They kept their businesses afloat. So I just thought I'd put that in there too.
Okay, so
that
let me
would
just
my
be
comment.
clear. Did you get a PPP loan or some bank or a bank loan separate?
I got a PPP.
Okay, and then the person who said that, they're not council members, they're ward
Oh.
NAB members. I'm
Okay.
the only council member here.
Okay,
And I
I'm
did
sorry,
not
I'm
say
sorry.
that. So I
Sorry.
didn't want you to, get that
Sorry, I didn't mean
conflated.
to cast aspersions on you.
But I would like to talk to you offline, Bruce, if I could get your phone number from Nick. I want to follow up because your perspective is very important for us to also hear. And, we don't always get to hear all of the sides. So I appreciate you recognizing yourself. Speaking. And I was going to ask Nick, we've been working, Ward 2 has been working with this one complex for so long that I think I put in a request to have it also on Ward 2 NAB. It's only blocks from Ward 2 and it's been a big topic of conversation for a decade here. So if you could just take a note, Nick, for March. Okay. Thank you, Bruce, for coming today.
I appreciate
participating.
it. All right, bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to hand it. Thank you again, Bruce. We're going to hand it back to Mimi for the rest of the agenda. I appreciate everybody's input. A lot to think about. We still have basically a week until the meeting. So if you want to send me anything or get some more thoughts out there, feel free.
Right, thank you, Councilwoman. That was very timely and pertinent for, our discussion. And I'm sure we're going to be discussing this again a lot. So
Yeah, sure.
we're going to move on now to item number A6. That would be Nick's staff liaison report.
Yeah, so Councilmember Dewar covered a few of the things that I was going to touch on, but as she said, I've been looking into some housing affordability research. I don't know if she mentioned it, but she is also donating some money to the Sierra Arts Foundation so that she can send some students to the Beyond Van Gogh experience later in the fall, which I think is going to be a really exciting experience for them, for some folks that wouldn't otherwise be able to go there. We are also working on hosting an Earth Day event with Relief Reno and our sustainability manager. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on was her sending some of her money over to Relief Reno as well. So definitely no secret to anyone, but she loves her trees and the green in the city of Reno.
Well, that is true. And I went off, that reminds me, Nick, I went off the Arts and Culture Commission as their liaison, but I didn't lose my love for the arts. And I know how meaningful some of these experiences were to me when I was younger to develop appreciation. And very few of the schools these days have any art programs. I actually checked into this. One that does is Damani Ranch. And I've already begun negotiating between Sierra Arts and Damani Ranch about them having a class about Van Gogh, then going to the exhibit, and then debriefing so that there's actually like a learning module. It's not just a field trip to Van Gogh exhibit. And so it looks like they're really going to be able to make a program out of it. So I'm very excited about that. So thanks, Nick.
I have a question. We're talking, a little bit about our trees. I did notice that there's some trees that are in Midtown along South Virginia Street that have now been reduced to sticks.
Right. So we're having a problem with some vandalism on the trees in Midtown. One of the things I recommended was some placement of some cameras. But anytime you plant, let's say 20 trees, 1 or 2 won't make it, right? For various reasons. Maybe they weren't planted right. Maybe it was a bad tree. So there's that. So our Matt Basil, our urban forester, already has a number on his list for replacement, because once they're planted, they become our responsibility, not RTC. They basically hand over the project to us. The trees have a warranty from when they're planted. So there's at least a 1-year warranty, maybe a 2-year warranty. And so sometimes a tree fails kind of mid-season and they might wait another year or half a year to get one replanted. So anyway, Matt is on it. That's what I can tell you. This is one of the challenges of an urban canopy.
Yep, I know it's such a shame. I think these were ones of the ones that were subject to vandalism because they're just like a toothpick. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I just hate to see that. So, well, thank you for letting us know. So I'm glad he's on top of that. And I just hate seeing that because, we shouldn't have to replace things because people can't, follow the law. But that's a topic for another day.
Okay.
So we'll move on to B, the business items. We're going to be going on to B1, Nevada open meeting law training. This is information item only with Ryan from the city of Reno. Nick, do we have Ryan here with us today?
Yes, let me promote him so he can do his presentation.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, Council Member Doer,
Hi.
Council Member Reese, if you're still online. Happy to be here with you all today. A little bit of an introduction for me. My name is Ryan McElhaney, a recent acquisition in the City Attorney's Office. My background, I've practiced law for about 11 years, mostly in the area of civil litigation. I've done everything from family law to bankruptcy, and I'm happy to bring my skills to bear for the City of Reno. I am from Reno, went to Reno High, grew up in Reno, and I'm happy to be working for the city and look forward to working with you all. So let me share my screen here or see if I can get this done. Okay. There we go. Okay. There have been some notable changes to the open meeting law recently, but the spirit of the law remains the same, and that's that public bodies conduct the people's business with transparency. And in this age of COVID, that is done online sometimes, but that doesn't defeat the purpose of anything we're doing here. We still have to conduct our business transparently and as openly as we possibly can. 2 words to keep in mind when you guys are conducting your business is deliberation and action. Anything that can even be loosely defined as action and or deliberation needs to be conducted publicly and open. So keep that in mind. And there are various avenues that action and deliberation can be done. It's not just in a meeting like this. It can be done via email. It can be done in a telephone call. So please be aware when you guys are interacting with each other that you need to be aware of the open law meetings. I'm going to try to keep this short today, but again, I don't want to undercut the importance of keeping the open meeting laws in mind when you guys are conducting your business, because sometimes no good deed goes unpunished, and I want you guys to be aware of what's going on when you're conducting this business so the people's business can get done. Most recently, the governor's directive allowing remote meetings was codified into the NRS, and if anybody's curious where that's at, it is 241.023, and that's now codified. So the governor's directive is basically overridden by the NRS. I'm going to say the most important thing to remember in these meetings, and I think it was illustrated today, is to facilitate and allow public comment to the greatest degree possible. It doesn't mean you have to put up with abuse. It doesn't mean you have to put up with any kind of disruptive behavior, but you need to keep a very wide allowance for what the public is allowed to say and what the public is allowed to comment on. And that's by physical location or remote means. And in the case of remote means, all efforts need to be taken to for the public to partake in these remote meetings. Couple of other things that have changed: the agenda posting requirements, not so much a concern for you guys, but there's no need to post in 3 physical locations anymore. I have a feeling that has a lot to do with COVID and just trying to streamline the process of notifying the public. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Okay, the agenda. I can sum up, stick to the agenda is the best thing to remember when you're conducting these meetings. Do your best not to stray from agenda items. I know sometimes conversation can stray into ancillary items, and it's easy to do. I know people want to talk about things, but you need to keep it strictly tailored to the agenda. so you guys don't get in trouble for talking about stuff that's not on the agenda. Obviously, you can only take action on items that are clearly identified on the agenda as action items. Discussion items, again, pretty obviously, you can only discuss. If conversation needs to happen outside of the agenda items, I would really recommend reserving that conversation for the future agenda items, which should be listed on all your guys' agendas. It's kind of an open-ended opportunity for you guys to talk about things that may be slightly outside of the topic of conversation for the day. Kind of repeating myself, taking an action on an item obviously requires a quorum. I'm repeating a lot of this stuff for you guys because I'm sure you're already aware of a lot of this. Be aware of walking or constructive quorums. That's a kind of technical term, a term of art. When you're communicating with other committee members, be very aware, whether it's by email, by telephone, text message, anything like that. If you're communicating in a way that is a constructive quorum, you can be running afoul of the open meeting law. Next slide here. Public comment. Again, I'm repeating myself. You got to allow a really wide berth for public comment. That doesn't mean you have to put up with abuse. Doesn't mean you have to put up with disruptive behavior. And I highly recommend that either the board chair or the other board members kind of wrangle in any disruptive behavior or verbal abuse, anything like that. Again, permitted at the beginning of each meeting. Only reasonable restrictions can be made on public comment, and this is very important. It's a First Amendment issue. Anything that you all do that restricts public comment is traced back to the city of Reno, which is a municipal entity, a government entity at the end of the day. So any restrictive speech that you guys are practicing, you just need to be really aware that, again, a wide berth for public comment. But again, no vulgar language, no disruptive behavior. Other OML provisions, open meeting law, that's my short term for open meeting law. The agenda has to be posted no later than 9 a.m. 3 days prior to the meeting. No agenda items added after this deadline. That's very important. I know people sometimes get excited about stuff and you want to add other items. It's not allowed. Just be patient and save it for the next meeting. Items can be taken out of order on the agenda, and that's kind of at the will of the committee. Just make sure you reflect that in the minutes and reflect that with your comments so everybody's aware of what's going on. Next slide here, the effects of COVID. I've kind of already talked about this. We can see the effects of COVID, and whether you see that as good or bad with these remote meetings, it has changed the process of the open meeting law. And to wrap it up, if anybody's looking for an exciting evening, you can go to the Attorney General's website and look up some open meeting law opinions. Sometimes they can be very, very narrowly tailored, whether they be related to minutes or walking quorums or constructive quorums. Very interesting for somebody like me who practices law, maybe not so much for you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call at the office, email me. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I'm really looking forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I think that having this discussion, Ryan, at least, once in the spring and once in the fall, winter is important to remind everybody, especially if we've got new board members that are participating on the meetings, and a reminder for those of us that have been on the board about, what the guidelines and what the NRS states. And, you're right. A lot of times what people do veer off the path with subject matters, and then one creeps in and then it kind of, rabbit trails on other things. So yes, keeping to the agenda item and making sure that we are pertinent and staying on track is critical. I do appreciate you putting together these slides for us. I'm going to be saving these to my test myself and making sure that we can go back and that if we ever have to reference these, I know Nick has them as well, that Nick can always pull those up and we can reference those quickly. Do any of the board members or Councilwoman Dewar, does anybody have any comments or questions regarding Ryan's presentation this evening? Okay, seeing nobody. I know we all been following this for a while, so seeing none, any public comment on this? Oh,
Not
the
seeing
attorney's not
anything.
getting any love today.
Well, I'm going to thank you for coming, Ryan. And that was a very precise and to the point open meeting law presentation. We've had them go for an hour before, and I wasn't really sure what you had in mind, but I think it's really good to talk about the new exceptions. You know, things are always changing, and this legislation this legislature made changes that you've highlighted, which is very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. I appreciate those comments. Thank you very much.
Brian, thank you so much. We'll invite you back later this year.
Thank you, everybody.
Don't
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to move on now to business item B2, NDOT Advanced Signal Warning System Project Update. And this is NDOT. Do we have a representative from NDOT today, Nick?
Yes, let me move them over now.
And who do we have with us today?
I don't remember their name, so give me 1 second, please.
Mr. NDOT.
Looks like we have Jay with us today. And Jay, let me know if I need to add anyone else. You are muted.
Jay, yeah. And it looks like Stephen Schwartzer's joined us as well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I feel like it's the old phone commercials. Sam Ahiamadi, please, if you see him on the listing.
Yes, I'll promote him now.
Thank you. While he gets sets up, let me introduce myself for the record. Well, first, good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Jake Pullen. I represent Nevada Department of Transportation and the Traffic Operations Division. Our office is in Carson City. I first want to thank the board for the opportunity to be here and to provide an update on the advanced signal warning system. I know it's a riveting topic, so I know everybody's excited just as much as we are, at least in terms of providing an update of where we are and where we're going. So really the purpose of our being here is to kind of provide a purpose to what we're doing. Why are we updating the program? The reason why we're updating the program is that we want to provide a consistent and uniform practice statewide. And so advanced warning signal systems have been deployed for many years. The reasons for them may not have been consistent, but the reason for this consistency is that, in a nutshell, by providing this consistency statewide for the program, what we want to do is enhance safety by promoting positive driver behavior. And that really what it boils down to is that as a driver, we are distracted by all sorts of things. We have thoughts running through our head about a past conversation or thinking about, or I don't want to say somebody's on their phone. Let's just pretend that all of us are straightforward and we're not on our phone. But for the most part, our mind is everywhere but the road. And so we realize that your attention is very important to us and very precious. So we don't want to distract you with any traffic control devices that aren't necessary. So what we're trying to do is we want drivers to focus on the traffic signal that you're driving up to and not the advanced flashers. And I think there has been a perception of the need for those advanced flashers. And what we're finding is we're trying to avoid the distraction of it. We want the attention to be towards the actual signals. So you're looking at those heads, whether it's green, yellow, or red. And that is the purpose of providing this update. I'd like to, Sam, are you, I apologize for cutting it, but Sam, are you gonna post the presentation?
Yes, I will.
Thank you, sir. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Sam Ahiamadi. He is the operations and network analysis manager. He's much smarter than me. So just to let you know, he makes me look good in terms of what we do. Specifically, he is the project manager for this program. So he will be providing a presentation so that we can walk you through our process, through our study, through our updated standard, and an update in terms of where we're going in terms of future construction projects. And then afterwards, both Sam and I will be available for comment or for questions.
A quick question right now, Jay. What is an advanced signal warning system? I don't even know. And I don't know that everybody does know.
That is a great question. And what I want to do is I do not want to take Sam's thunder in this. He's got a great presentation.
Okay.
And he's gonna do very well.
Does he know how to do slides?
If he posts the slides, I know we're gonna.
Can he put it on slideshow mode, which is up at the top?
Yes, I have it on slideshow. Can you see my screen now?
You don't have it on slideshow.
We can see your screen, but you need to put it on slideshow view. It's up at the top, along the top.
Okay, just a second. Let me see. Slideshow.
And I'm not even seeing your cursor, but there you go.
Is it on slideshow mode?
Well, it's on a time mode. I'm not sure. It's putting in everything we say. It's printing at the bottom. I've never seen that.
Okay.
I think you got it now.
Okay. Thank you for having us over. So like my boss, Jay, mentioned, this project started way back in 2019 with the objective of having the whole of Nevada being in consistency and then having a uniform system across states and across the whole nation. And when we started this project, we started with the intent of using the most current studies available to us as engineers and national-wide standards and guidance. So we brought in a consultant who helped us do all the studies. We interviewed other states across the US, got their responses, what every other state is doing, so that we'll all be consistent and uniform when we drive all through Nevada and we drive to other states. We don't want to give our drivers any confusion when they travel around. So what is the basic definition of an advanced signal warning system? An advanced signal warning system is basically a device that we put in advance of the traffic signals at intersections. Over the years, intersections have been known as one of the bottlenecks, and traffic signals have been installed as one of the controls. And advanced signal warning systems have specific needs or specific reasons why we install them, and I'll talk about them later. So once we got the consultants to start with the project, they studied all our advanced signal warning systems. You might have come across different kinds of advanced signal warning systems.
Sam, may I interrupt you? Are you meaning to move through your slides, or do you want us still on slide one?
I'm going to move along. This is just the introduction, then we'll go through the rest very fast.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know the slides weren't advancing.
Okay, yes. So like I did mention, we use these devices. You may have seen the second one, very common on Mount Rose. You've seen some of them on the Pyramid, and you've seen some of them on the old 395 or Virginia Street, where you see when the signal ahead is about to change, they go flashing and they let you know that the signal is changing. But there are three different kinds. The basic one, which is very common on our roads, is the active system. That's the one that flashes when the system is about to change from green to yellow and red. The second alternative, which is the passive systems, they are constantly flashing. I think if anyone of you have driven along Pyramid towards Cali de la Plata, you've seen that we have some of them deployed over there. And if you've driven lately on US 395 in Douglas County, we have some of them also deployed over there. So they are constantly flashing, alerting you. We typically will use those ones when you are driving from a rural area where you haven't seen any intersection, any signal light in a long time, and you are getting into our urban area or suburban area. We use those systems to alert you. We also have one currently installed in Fallon, which is also constantly flashing and reminding drivers that they are moving from Fenley. They've been driving for over 10 miles without meeting any signal. And if you are not careful, you zone out. Most people would do any other thing, like Jay said, except concentrate on the road. And so these systems help you to know that, hey, something is happening, and it helps us to pay more attention. The third, which is usually very common, but most people don't see, is the one on top over there, which has a kite symbol with the red, gold, and green sign on it. Most people drive past this without paying attention, but these ones we refer to as static systems, and they are also deployed at certain specific areas. Now, to the point of why do we install advanced signal warning systems? One of the key points is that when you are in a curve or when you are in an elevation such that you do not see the signal lights ahead, that is when we use the advanced signal warning system to help you know that there is a signal ahead. And the other case, which I did talk about, is when you are driving and you haven't come across signals in a long time, we use them to help you know that, hey, there's a signal ahead. When you are driving on a high-speed corridor, in combination with the two above, we also use that to remind you that, hey, there is a signal ahead and you need to pay attention, or maybe around the corner in the curve, when you drive a few hundred feet or a few feet, you are going to see a signal. So we use those ones to keep you going. And then the final one and the most important is engineering judgment. Just like a doctor without a license cannot practice, the same thing with engineers. We need to be certified and be able to practice. So in addition to the three above, we need a certified engineer to compare all the data in the field and make a determination whether we need an advanced signal warning system. If we need one, which type do we need? This is a typical case where if we install an advanced signal warning system at the wrong place, we see drivers doing the opposite of what we expect them to do. So when we install advanced signal warning systems and drivers can see the signal, after they've used the road for a while, they all become very familiar with the road infrastructure, and they know that when the advanced signal warning system starts flashing, they have X number of seconds to go across the signal. And believe you me, we've seen from data that a lot of them would hit the gas with the intention of, I want to go across that signal before the red catches me, and they will do it. But we don't realize that the few seconds of acceleration is a recipe for disaster, because it is going to create dangerous situations where we, as certified engineers, have realized that it is creating a very, very dangerous time bomb at all those locations. And so we are trying to correct all the things that needs to be corrected. And like I did mention, when we set out with the research, we had over a year of studies, including interviews, and we came up with the guidelines. When we had our guidelines, the first thing we needed to do with the guidelines was to apply the guidelines to our existing systems. So we went across the state to all the signals that had advanced signal warning systems preceding them. And we applied our guidelines. We collected field data, came back together with the city engineers, looked at each and every one of them and determined the kind of system they needed. And that gave birth to the changes that we are seeing on our roads. So some of the systems, we realized that we needed to completely remove them. Some of the systems, we needed to modify them and change them from active to passive. Some of them, we needed to change them to static, and some of them, we needed to maintain. So we have all the categories over there. And these are based on the current and most advanced engineering knowledge available for us as a nation. We have done all these changes in Carson, Douglas, and Las Vegas with great success. We are very happy with the results we've gotten. We realized that after we deployed all our modifications, we have not had any incidents. So this tells us that our desire to correct the unsafe driving behavior that some drivers, I know everybody on the call today is a very good driver who doesn't speed up when they see the signals. The rest of the engineers, we want to make sure everybody does something good. We want to prevent crashes, we want to promote safety. And so we achieved those successful results when we deployed them in Carson, Douglas, Las Vegas, and Elko. Now the only portion left for us is Washoe County, which is Mount Rose Corridor, Pyramid Corridor, and then on Veterans Parkway, and the US 395 south of Reno. So we are going to do those ones come late spring into early summer to conclude what we have started across the whole state. When we did some research with the help of UNR across some of the intersections that had our advanced signal warning systems, we had very good results based on if they were correctly installed. When they were not correctly installed, we found out that most drivers were speeding. And that creates a health hazard for us, or a crash hazard. And we don't want to have the situation where a system that was deployed to help ends up becoming a danger for the public. I believe the area that would be most applicable to the CAB here is Mount Rose Corridor and Veterans Parkway. And we label those ones as M, H, N, I, and J. With M and N, we are maintaining the system as is. With H, which is the northbound on Thomas, we are going to take it out. With southbound on US 3, on the old Virginia towards Mount Rose Highway, we are also going to take that one out. The northbound on the Virginia towards Mount Rose Parkway, we are going to, Mount Rose Highway, sorry, we are going to change that one to a passive system, which will be constantly flashing to remind us that there's a signal ahead. And as I said, in 2019, we started the study, did all the groundwork, came up with the most advanced document we have, or guidelines to help us. And we have completed construction on all the other areas. And we are now going to commence with Mount Rose Highway, Pyramid Highway, and then Veterans Parkway to get the system completed. We are hoping that by the end of the year, we should be finished with all our construction to have consistency and uniformity across the state, and to make our drivers safer and more reliable when they go to other states. We want to keep everybody alive. What you are going to see, the stages for our construction would be about 6 stages.
Hey,
The first-
excuse me, Sam. So we've been talking for about 15 minutes now. Are you getting close to being able to wrap it up for us or summarize so we can go to some question and answers, please?
Yes, in a minute or so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So the first stage, you are going to see signs go up telling you that there's going to be change in the traffic pattern for about 7 days minimum. And then at stage 2, for the system that need to be removed, we are going to change the flashing lights that tell you that when the system, that signal is going to change, when they start flashing, we are going to change them to constantly flashing beacons. And we are going to change the sign to have signal ahead to tell you that there's a change. We will leave that for 30 days and then come back again, take out the flashing beacons and leave only the signs letting you know that there's a signal ahead. We leave that also for additional 30 days before we come back and take out the system. We are allowing the 60 days to get drivers to slowly transition and realize that we are doing some changes to their expected system of driving. I think I did mention this already. We have had very good success, no crashes at the intersections that we have so far completed. And we expect the same thing. This will be, if you need, and if you have any further questions outside of today, you can contact us at info@dot.nv.gov or call the hotline 775-888-7000 or just email ndot@nvsafesignals.com and there will be someone always over there to assist. Thank you.
Sam, thank you so much. That was incredibly interesting. I do have a question. I was wondering with you and Jay, do you guys have some kind of data or statistics on, you know, accidents that have happened at these intersections that have these warning systems where people like see the flashing light and like you said, they speed up and, you know, speed through the intersection where versus larger intersections that don't have these signal warnings? Are you seeing an increase in accidents at or speeders at these particular intersections?
And before you answer, you might want to take it off screen share so we can see you, unless you want to show more slides.
Thank you, Chair, for that question. In regards to the crash data, the challenge we have is that there was a prior practice. I mean, the last standards that we have in regards to advanced signal warning system deployment was pre-2000. And unfortunately, we didn't have consistency where we'd liked it to be. And we didn't have that foresight of actually collecting crash data prior to the installation of these devices to actually having crash data collected and observing the aftermath of any changes that occurred. So unfortunately for us, we can look at the crash data, but it's harder to interpret it since those devices have already been existing. And a good example to this is, unfortunately, when there are crashes that occur, depending upon law enforcement who that actually does the crash report, there's no specific boxes they check that actually indicate going, you know, when I spoke to the driver, they were speeding up due to the advanced signal. There's no questions in that. So unfortunately, when we get to that data, it would be a lot of guesswork, and that's not good. So one thing that, and I appreciate your patience to that presentation, we realize advanced signals, there's a lot of information going on. One of the things we wanted to kind of mention now is that we know better now. So when we make adjustments or when we deploy new systems, we will have a 1-year and 3-year review of not just crashes, but everything else to get that feedback. So we actually have more supporting data to support our current program.
Thank you. It's Donna.
Hi, I wanted to thank you. That was a great presentation, really interesting. And I wanted to also thank you for being an agency willing to rectify, you know, that, oh, something didn't work out. let's try it differently. I was wondering though, I mean, the advance warnings went up for a reason because someone felt it would be helpful for people to know it's coming. So when you take that down, and I see that you're taking it down in stages so that people who regularly travel can have a chance to get used to it. But like for somebody like me, sometimes it actually really helps when I'm traveling new territory to see the little sign, signal ahead, or, you know, just some sort of indicator. Although the flashing lights don't help me at all. It makes it more confusing. So will ultimately these things that you're going to remove everything, are you ultimately going to consider that perhaps there should be some sort of advance warning, even if it's just a less offensive, that doesn't tell me to gun it to get through beforehand or something? I mean, a different.
That's a very great question. We're not eliminating advanced signal warning systems. What we're doing is we're rectifying whether it's placed appropriately. And the reason for it is when we get a lot of feedback from the public in terms of what we're doing here, Sam had mentioned engineering judgment. We're looking at everything. You know, every location that's showing a removal or a modification, those were specific field studies at that specific location. So in a nutshell, what's happening is if I place an advanced signal warning system and it's active and it's flashing before it goes yellow, if you have a perfect line of sight and you have no visibility issues to see that signal, I'm distracting you with a flashing beacon. So number one, I'm taking your attention away from actually looking at the signal ahead. The other thing I could possibly be doing is basically tempting you, if you're running late, to rush it. And then it goes on the other side. If I'm a truck driver and it flashes in advance and the timing's not correct, because some of these were just adjusting the timing, what's happening is they're slowing down and they're actually risking crashes behind them, rear end crashes, because the drivers are seeing green ahead. And they're going, what are they slowing down for? And so what we've realized is, as long as it's appropriately placed, so when you're looking at, like, as Sam had mentioned, if you're looking at a curve and you cannot see that signal, and we're identifying that we care about your stopping sight distance, the time it takes you to see the signal head, the time it takes you to understand and make a decision, to when you apply your foot on the brake. That's what we call perception reaction time. At that point, do you have the distance between perception reaction time and slowing down? And I want to say slowing down comfortably, because we can slam on our brakes, but we don't want you to slam on your brakes. Slow down comfortably to that signal. If we find that distance isn't there, then we'll have an advanced signal, especially on a curve. It may be an active. So when you see it flashing, you're like, oh no, it must be going. So you're going to slow down. But when you can see the signal and you can see the flasher, we're tempting you and we're training you, which is something that we're trying to correct. That we want more positive driver behavior.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members for Jay? We do have public comment. We do have Jennifer Baker. Nick, can you let her in?
Yep, letting her in now.
Thank you so much.
Hi there. Thank you for allowing me to jump on. I do have a couple of questions. I was actually texting somebody in Douglas if they had noticed a difference in the area. Would you please repeat that area that you removed those and tell me what you did in that area one more time? I just want to get public perception from that area for specific information.
Okay, so for your question is that you wanted to know Sam, do you have that list in Douglas? Unfortunately, I have the list for Sparks and Reno.
I believe it was 5 slides back, if that helps. I just didn't catch the information. I was asking questions at that time.
I do not have the list for Douglas County here, but I can pull that up later.
Okay, and I can just contact you offline to get that answer then?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Sorry,
much.
I couldn't answer it right away. You got me.
Do any of the other board members have any questions for the guys? Well, it's an interesting subject matter, that's for sure. I guess something that I never thought about would be an issue, you know, but I completely understand what they're saying and why it's an issue. So we appreciate you, Jay and Sam. spending the time with us this evening and giving us the information. I guess this year we'll see those changes start to, it says spring and summer, the construction is going to begin with changing those out, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So then, perhaps maybe later this year, late summer or so, we can have you back and see what's happening. And if you guys have any other updated information for us, that would be great.
And we should have your PowerPoint, right? So on your
Yes.
PowerPoint, I think you had the list of the ones in the Reno Sparks area.
Yes,
Correct.
they do.
Nick
Yeah, we
has
can-
our PowerPoint.
Right.
Yep, the PowerPoint was sent via email, and it also will be included in the agenda packet on reno.gov/meetings for anyone in the public that'll be looking for that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So they've got their list. So they've got it. So thank you. All right, with no other questions, and Jay and Sam, thank you so much for your time this evening, and we appreciate your information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is B4. Lieutenant Bond had a more pressing matter that he had to attend to right now, so he's not going to be able to join us. I wanted to find out if any of the board members had any discussions or had any concerns or thoughts about, some of the things that have been happening over the winter time or the beginning of the year in our ward. We do have a handout that's got the statistics from October, November of 2021. Nick, if you want to share that, would everybody like to see that for just a quick second? We can pop that up.
Yes, just give me 1 second.
Okay, no problem.
Are you able to see my screen all right?
Yep, we can. Just keep on scrolling. The good news with the statistics, board members, from October, November 2021 in comparison with November of 2020, we do have some percentage decreases in some of the categories. So that's good news. There we go for Ward 2. So we can take a look at this, and we can see that the commercial burglaries looks like they're up a little bit, and the destruction of property is up. Our residential burglaries look like they've gone down a little bit. Robberies, we've got a formula there. Stolen vehicles, we've been hearing a lot about the stolen vehicles lately. Those are up. Your crime against, so the vehicle burglary is, stolen vehicle is up, vehicle burglaries is down. Your crime against persons is down. And then, so overall, looks like we're down 2.8% from what we were last year. Does anybody have any comment or have anything that they want to add to this? Julia, you have your hand up.
Well, and Mimi, I was just gonna say that this is for November, so the more up-to-date version I can go to if you'd like for the month of January.
Oh, well, that would be lovely. Yes, thank you so much.
I included it all in the packet. I wasn't sure which section you wanted me to go to. And it looks like there are 2 hands raised as well. Just
I will go ahead and speak because I don't think the new statistics will change the criteria. And I've been watching these, and we've had so many reports from police, and I was just looking at the app on my phone. They don't talk about moving violations, and we've talked to the police a bit about this, we can hear people racing. And one time, one of the police representatives told us that was just motorcycles or something. But we know that there are cars speeding down the freeway, and they're speeding on Huffaker and I don't know where all, but I mean, we can hear them. I've seen 2 wrecks out on Huffaker in the last several months. And nationally, it's a big thing. It's a big news story here in the state of Nevada, even in 21, in I think the first 6 months of 21, car crashes went up 38%. I don't know what we can do about it, but when we've asked the police about it, they obviously must have the data, but they're not talking about that. Maybe that's something that they don't know if they can change or something, but I'm concerned that I see more reckless drivers on the streets every day, and it's not even a national thing. Actually, I saw one article that said it's a global phenomenon, that there are many more people driving recklessly for some reason during the pandemic. So maybe it'll go away after the pandemic. But to me, that's a big thing. If we can't drive on our streets because it's not safe because of reckless drivers.
Thank you, Julia. Jack?
Thank you, Mimi. I'll echo Julia definitely about the street racing. It's I live over here off of Double Diamond, and I can hear it all down Veterans. I know that there was just a new stoplight that was installed right off, and I think that was great, but I still hear it. The street racing is still really, really bad. So if we could, I don't know, maybe have an item in the future just specifically toned in on that. I think I saw someone in public comment made the same comment too. It's pretty bad. But my question specifically is these crime reports, are they reflecting the new wards? Because I know Ward 2, we gained a little subsection with the Meadowood Mall area, if I'm not confused. That would be awesome to know. And then the second question was just the commercial burglaries. If there's, I don't know if, I know there's no police representative here, but maybe the next time they can come here, they can answer these questions. But just I noticed that there was 100% increase in Ward 2, and I think almost in all the wards in the January area. And then the last report, I think November, December, there was also increase just specifically in Ward 2, I think 50%. So just, wondering why commercial burglaries are kind of up right now. That was the only questions I had on my part.
So Jack, just to chime in, I think that was a really good question about the wards, and it looks like they may not have updated it yet. So good question, and I will make sure to flag.
Donna, did you have your hand up?
I did have my hand up because I had noticed that the ward boundaries were the old boundaries, but then Jack brought it up and it confirmed, so I took my hand down. Thank you for remembering.
And looking at these statistics, thank you so much, Nick. We do have these numbers are much better. Obviously, the stolen vehicle numbers are up, and the crime against persons is up, which is unfortunate. But a large percentage, we did see a decrease, which is surprising because that's the holidays, so that's good. The one thing I do know, where Julia and I live over there on Huffaker by South Virginia Street, kind of West Huffaker, I noticed that we're hearing more gunshots. And you agree with that, Julia? And I don't know about you guys that are a little bit more south than we are, but we're hearing quite a bit more. I think a lot of them are happening on that east side of Huffaker. And then, kind of in some of, I don't know if they're going on Virginia Street, but it seems like it used to be like occasionally, now it's several times a week that we're hearing the gunshots. And so I wasn't sure what was happening down in the more southern part of the ward, if you guys are hearing the same down there.
I know I've heard things that sound like gunshots, but I don't know if I can. I know that there's a lot of car mufflers that kind of sound the same. So I don't know. Certainly, I don't know if Mara can speak to this. I know she's on the same side of town I am, but I can't say that I have.
I agree with and it might be that I'm just kind of tucked away and don't hear it, but I don't hear the same amount of street noise as you guys are saying that you hear from the racing to the shotguns and stuff. But I do agree that I really appreciate the extra stoplight on Veterans over by Bella Vista. I think it'll make a big difference.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just going to get more interesting, with as we keep, more people we know are moving into our community, and as we seeing the increase of folks into our ward as well. Because let me ask this with Councilwoman Dewar. Do we have, out of all the wards, do we have the most building going on right now between apartments and housing?
We probably do. Things that were either PUDs that were approved a long time ago and sort of sat on the shelf from the 2005 timeframe. Many of those or things that just need a building permit. You mentioned the one on Tanamera at Longley and Virginia. There's also all the apartments that have been going up on Arrow Creek that are just building permits, not PUDs. We had, for the last couple of years, we had Caramella being built out, which was 900 some units. Curdy Ranch was already built out. I believe, we've just completed the census for 2020. We've just redistricted. So we had the most growth. I think it was something in the order of 10 to 15,000. It was about 10,000, I want to say, by 2020. But then the last 2 years, we added like another, I'm going to say 5,000 people. This isn't 5,000 units, but 5,000 people between all of the units. I mean, most units, let's say the 900 some at Caramella, which was just the last 2 years, those homes are averaging like 3 people per home, And so now we're expecting the focus to shift to the north and also out to Verdi. So we've approved the Daybreak, which has 4,000 homes, Stonegate in the north that has 5,000 homes, Santerra out by Verdi, 3,000 homes, and other large groups that have, 500 to 1,000 homes slotted in them. So we have been the center of growth for the last 10 years. But I do, and there still are things that are unbuilt that have been approved down in South Reno. But the focus for new permitting is going north. One of the challenges there has been that the wastewater sewage treatment plant has not had the capacity to support growth up there, which is why we are building right now, doubling the size of the plant from 2 mg, I want to say it's 2 mgd to 4, meaning twice the size. And we're also dealing with what to do with the effluent now, right? Some of you may remember that there was a lawsuit, and part of it during the 2017, or as a result of the 2017 flood in North Valleys around Swan Lake, which alleged that our discharge of effluent was in part one of the reasons that the water levels came up and stayed up. The other big reason that was alleged was stormwater ponds. There was, I'm saying alleged because it wasn't adjudicated. They did say that the city was responsible, but then it went into a damages phase, and that was resolved through settlement. But anyway, the point is that's been a big stop to growth, is ability to process sewage. So did I answer your question, or?
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I knew that we were probably the largest growing ward for many years. And I think we're going to continue to be a large growing ward. And so, the question is, can we put more law enforcement, because we are the largest growing ward, and get a little bit more of the, officers allocated to our ward? We can always ask.
Well, I'd just like a comment on that. So when I first got on council 2015, we had 2 police officers on shift, 3 shifts a day. That's a total of 6, so 2. I really worked hard to get that basically increased 50% to 3 per shift. The challenge is that often it takes multiple police officers to respond, let's say, to a crash. Something happens at night.
Yeah.
There's an altercation. Not only will all the ones around here respond, but others. So recently, and I'm going to be asking this question, but there was a mid-year ad of police officers, and I did not get how many were added. I think it was about 10, but I think they were distributed into different areas. We're talking patrol. So this is on patrol, but a lot of the police officers are assigned to units such as graffiti or drugs or, SWAT or this or that, special units, and they're not available for patrol. So I think we should get an update on that, frankly, and just see where our support staff is right now when we come back with the follow-up RPD presentation.
Great, that's a good idea. Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Anybody else? Let's do the list here. Anybody raising their hand? Patrick, Tyler, you guys been too quiet tonight.
No questions.
Okay, well, at least you said something. Thank you. I'm feeling better now. Patrick, you haven't said anything all night. Where's the love?
Oh, I've got all the love here. I'm saving it up.
Okay, good. Just getting worried. All right, thank you so much. Now we're going to move on. If that's everything on that item, we'll look forward to hearing from the officer next month and incorporating some of our questions tonight. Moving on to item number B5, it's the City of Reno, Virginia Range Horses Safety Concerns Update. So Councilwoman Dewar, please do tell what is happening right now.
Well, I'll be brief on this. I'll just try to give you the bottom line. As Nick identified, we had about 150 participants in the public workshop about 10 days ago. There were presentations by myself and by the Wild Horse Connection and the American Wild Horse, as well as our Public Works Department, along with NDOT was there. And then we had representatives from the county, including Commissioner Lucy and Dave Solero, who's Assistant County Manager. The upshot of it was that there were many, many questions asked. We went over the 2-hour time limit, and it seemed that there was a great deal of support for a few things. One of the things was the fencing project that has been explored over the last couple months. The idea of adding fencing going south and then moving across Geiger Grade and Toll Road and sort of enclosing the developments rather than following the streets. And that seems to be much more economical, and there seemed to be interest in that. There's a lot of questions and interest on speed. The speed study had started the same week that the workshop was, so about 10 days ago. I believe they've picked up their equipment, so they'll be analyzing all of the data and making some recommendations. That's the speed. And then there were comments just that people kind of liked. At least I heard support for a Virginia Range corridor to allow the horses to kind of go through the developed area, and also potentially a wildlife preserve area where all wildlife could come and drink out of Steamboat Creek, and we could potentially set up a viewing area. So what's happening now is we've kind of broken into teams. There's going to be a full year of messaging about horses, about how to treat wild horses in the neighborhoods, how to not feed them. There is an effort to increase signage, primarily about don't feed the horses, don't cut the gates or break the gates, don't cut the fences. And then I'll be working with a team on the fencing project. And there is going to be additional information on our website. Okay, so really an expanded information portal there. And so all of this will come to another milestone in May. I believe it is set for May 16th. We are going to have another information workshop where we can discuss the progress to date and what are some next steps at that time. And then my understanding is that the facilitator of that meeting, which was Erica Olson, is in the process of being engaged as a project manager. I think the city's realizing that they have a lot of people assigned to very specific jobs, but very few people that have sort of cross-cutting skills that can work with larger groups of people from diverse disciplines and project manage something from beginning to end. They're a little short-staffed on that skill set. So my understanding is the manager's office is looking to hire Erica Olson for a period of time to help project manage the fencing, the overall project. Let me just ask Nick if he has anything to add. He attended, and I don't know if I've left a pertinent item out at this time.
I don't think you left anything out. I think it was a really good meeting. I think a lot of this happened because of the work Councilmember Dewar was doing, and to see this great interagency meeting finally happen to address the problem was definitely a result of the work of her and some of the members here too.
Well, and you mentioned the key word, Nick, which was interagency cooperation. And I really think our Public Works Director, John Flansburgh, really made that point, that it's beyond takes a village. I mean, we need to work with the county, NDOT, and other groups to make sure that the project goes down a path that's sustainable and we can actually carry it out. And we cover all the territory, and we're not in our silos dealing with a problem in Reno or a problem in Washoe County or a problem on an NDOT road, which is Geiger grade. So that came out pretty strongly during the meeting. So thank you. I think that's enough for right now on that topic, unless anyone has any questions.
No, that's a great update. And, as you and I are both familiar with interagency projects, right? I was kind of laughing and smiling to myself thinking horses are like water. They don't stop at the, at the jurisdictional lines, right? So, being able to have all our agencies come together and partner yet again on another project is huge. It's really, really important that everybody comes together because it's affecting everybody. And it's like I said, just like with water, not one agency can just handle it alone. And it takes a public and it takes a private partnership to pull all this together to make sure that we come up with the right solution for not only our community, but also for the wild horses as well. So it's great to hear that everybody's coming together and coming up with a solution. So that's great.
I will say one takeaway. We pulled together data from the last 3 years in terms of horse collisions with vehicles. And just in the South Reno area, in the 3-year period, there were 25. And I believe 21 of them resulted in the horse passing, either euthanized or killed on impact. And that is very disturbing to everyone. And what's also interesting in light of our last presentation was that 95% of the collisions were at night.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the speed study is going to say, but someone wrote into me, and I've sent this over to our staff, which is that they may want to consider a day and night speed. They just can't see the horses at night. Apparently, instead of reflecting light, they absorb it. It's a feature of their coats, and makes collisions even more likely. So it is true that where they've been able to do mid-fencing and diversionary feeding, they have seen a sharp decline in collisions. And an example of that is the Trick area, the Tahoe Regional Industrial Center. They saw a very sharp decline in collisions when they began both. And there was a number of examples on that. So that sort of gave us the impetus. We're doing the diversionary feeding in South Reno, but we need the fencing. So
yes, for sure. Our tagline, wild horses don't know no boundaries, right?
Right. Good observation, Mimi.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you for that. We'll be interested to hear and how this is going to progress as we get, moving towards need. Julia.
Before we get off of this, I know I mentioned this before, but I just want to mention it again to Councilwoman Dewar. I wonder if anyone has explored the idea of using motion detectors with lights flashing. Is there a way to, when the horses get in common areas where they cross, where we could do something to warn people that there's something out in the road there, something, some combination of motion detector and flashers in areas where there's a lot of horse traffic, if you will.
I mean, it's a great idea. You are, to my knowledge, the only person who's mentioned it to me, and I am passing it along to our staff to evaluate as one of the many options. I believe they were concerned. Horses can go in any direction. It's not like they're just coming across, they pass the motion detector, and then they keep going straight. They might take a left right at that time or go in another direction. And I think that's the unknown. The NDOT was supportive of potentially putting a horse passage, an overpass or an underpass. And along with those are some some kind of even more intense fencing that guides the horses under or over. So that may be a really helpful solution, especially in Geiger grade. And so far they've taken a preliminary look at it and they're thinking underpass versus overpass. They say they've put some in and that the horses have adapted to them. So it's still out. Jury's still out. Thank you.
Sounds like we need a horse advanced signal warning system.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Maybe
If only-
NDOT will
Only they
give us,
went on the path, right?
right. Maybe we can ask NDOT for those signals they're taking down if they want to donate those to our project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. We're going to move on now to the development projects. This is going to be item number B61. And let me read this here. It looks like DP2 Master Plan Amendment LDC 22-00048. A request has been made for an amendment to the master plan land use designation from unincorporated transitional to single family. The 8.05 acre site is located 1,000 feet south of the intersection of Claim Jumper Way and Tellurium Mine Road. Say that fast 10 times. Nick, do we have a representative today?
Yeah, we have a few. I'm promoting them now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
And just so you know, Mimi, as a geologist, I've got to get you, that's tellurium.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to butcher this. Oh my gosh. Say that again.
Tellurium.
Tellurium. Got it.
To my knowledge, it's a rare earth, but there are groups, they've grouped the minerals on the periodic table in categories. So for example, gold and silver and platinum are precious metals.
Gotcha. It's not with a name like that. It sounds like it should be exotic, like, aqua blue or purple or something.
Yeah.
John, are you there? Can you hear us?
By the way, tellurium is extremely rare. It's only present in the Earth's crust to 0.001 part per million. They did discover it in 1783.
So they're not making any jewelry out of that right now.
I don't believe so. It's actually mildly toxic, but
Oh, okay.
mildly.
Mildly, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, many elements, if you dissolve them in water, they can form an acid or whatever. So lots of elements can.
That's wonderful trivia of the day.
Right.
I like it. From our PG.
So John, Jim, other John, Jennifer, who's taking the lead here?
John Kropotkin.
Okay. I will text him to see if he's having technical issues.
By the way, while it's one of the rarest elements on Earth, it's plentiful in space, they say.
That's
And it's
interesting.
as rare as platinum, they say. Are you guys ready?
John is available.
Is someone going to present tonight?
John, they're waiting for you.
Do you need screen sharing capability, John?
Everyone in the panel or in this area should be able to screen share.
John Kropotkin, can you hear us?
I can hear John, yes.
That was Jim asking John.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was confusing.
I'm calling him.
Unmute, John.
It appears to be an issue with his microphone. He's unmuted.
Okay.
Nick, do you have a copy of his presentation? Perhaps you could show it.
I do. I see him attempting to talk. I just don't know.
Maybe Jennifer could give us the status, and maybe we could come back and go to the next presentation.
I was thinking the same thing.
I leave that up to the chair.
Oh, we can definitely do that.
Apologies. Did you hear him this time?
No.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Forgive me for 1 second. Let me see if this will actually work for sound. John, can you say hello to everyone now?
Hello.
Yeah.
Nope, that's not gonna work
John
like
that's not going to be good. Can John just call in on his phone on Zoom?
Yeah, I need you to dial in. Do you have the number?
Or he can pull it up on his phone.
Or grab your app?
But let me just suggest that we do go to the next presentation while you work out the details.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm not sure.
That's okay, but
English,
I often do it is I call in on the phone and I'm on the computer as well, and it works great.
Okay, we'll go on to item B62, the Pachetti Ranch Townhomes. That's going to be LDC 22-00052. A request has been made for a tentative map to develop a 79-lot single-family attached townhome subdivision in the multifamily residential 30-unit per acre zone. The 6.3-acre site is located on the north side of Gateway Drive, 425 feet southeast of its intersection with Offenhauser Drive. The site has a master plan use designation of suburban mixed use. Nick, who do we have for that today?
We have Dave Snellgrove, who just joined us.
Mr. Snellgrove, what a pleasure.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
And welcome this evening.
Excellent. Yeah. When I saw John having problems, I thought, oh gosh, I hope mine works. So that is good. Let me go ahead. I appreciate reading all the information into the record there. And I'm going to bring, let's see, I'm going to have to do a share and then probably bring this up. Share screen. I think if I do this and then I go to a presentation, it should, slideshow, there it is. Okay, did it come up as the whole screen or do you still see kind of the PowerPoint split screen?
We see the whole screen.
You see the whole screen. Excellent. Okay, for the record, my name is Dave Snellgrove. I'm the Planning and Right-of-Way Manager with CFA. Here presenting the Pachetti Ranch Townhome Project. This was submitted as a tentative map. These would be 79 townhomes on 6.3 acres. We had our staff applicant meeting with the engineering planning staff, and they identified there's also an aspect of a minor conditional use permit, which we'll be adding to this. We have to go through the tentative map and a minor conditional use permit. Minor conditional use permit is typically handled at staff level. What they're going to do is elevate it to a regular conditional use permit so that everything can be heard all at once rather than having a case that goes to the planning commission and then a case that's done administratively. The planning commission will review all of it. So project location, this is, there's 4 associated parcels. There's 3 on the north side here. It's 164, 290, 02, 03, and 06. And then there's another one in another book and page, which is 163, 17, or 071, 08. It's on the north side of Gateway Drive as it turns into Offenhauser Drive, and 6.3 total acres in size. The surrounding uses that we have adjacent to the property, we've got apartments up to the north and west. I-580 is down toward the south. There is some vacant land, which I've heard some rumor that there may end up being a mini storage that ends up going there. We've got office uses over to the east of us. We've got Huffaker Park up to the north, the trail system, and we will have a connection to the trail system that comes out of the townhouse project. There's a daycare center, I believe it's a Blue Kangaroo, that's directly adjacent to us on the east. And then there is the South Reno Athletic Club Fitness Center, which is just down the road a little ways, so in convenient proximity for future residents. The master plan and zoning on the property. The master plan has suburban mixed use on the north 3 parcels, and then there's planned development on the south end. That the south end's kind of a remainder piece after Gateway Drive was put through with the appropriate radii. It kind of cut off this really odd, technically unbuildable sliver, but that is part of the property too, and that gives us the frontage along Gateway Drive. Insofar as the zoning, the SMU translates over to MF30 zoning, which is 30 dwelling units per acre, which is allowed if that's your maximum. That property is just a touch, very touch under 6 acres. And then we have the PD parcel in the south, that's just a little over 3/10 of an acre. The allowance on that, if we just look at the MF30 zoning, because the PD is more in a office industrial area, we don't have any uses that'll go over onto that property. It would allow up to 179 units on the property. So I'm putting this picture up right now as I want to make sure you understand locationally where we are. We're on the we've got the outside of a curve and we've got the inside of a curve on this property. You can see where the driveway currently takes off. It's on an inside corner and there's not really good visibility. So we tried to get the visibility up on the property by bringing the access more where this PD is listed. So you have an outside curve visibility. So what these pictures are is from that approximate location, showing the high visibility that you have both directions on Gateway Drive. This is some views from the trail system up in the Huffaker Hills Park area down towards the site. The property line is actually relatively close. This does not follow property line, but this older ranch style fence is close to the property line. So the trail system is actually up and removed a little bit from the property, but we can easily get access. You can see the relatively gentle grade. This is about where we'd envision a trail connection coming up and into the site, into the parkland. There is a path that goes over and serves directly into the apartments that are up to the north and west of us. This is a picture from the one up on the left side, upper left. That is a picture from the eastern side of the property, looking kind of towards the north and west. And then the picture at the bottom on the right, that is a picture from, really, you can see the existing driveway. This is on the western side of the property. On the left-hand side of this picture, there is that's where the storage unit that was built, I'd say in the last 5 or 6 years, the Store Quest. So that forms our western property line. So this is the project site plan and landscape plan, which has a total of 79 units. It's a density of 12.5 dwelling units per acre. Again, I want to point out that the zoning on the property is MF30, which allows up to 30 units per acre. This will be well under what the density allowance is. We've got every unit will have a 2-car garage, and we've got an additional 35 common area parking spaces for a total of 193 parking spaces, 2.44 parking spaces per unit. The architecture for this actually fits in. I've got some photos of some of the surrounding buildings. This actually fits in fairly well into this office industrial type area, a little bit of flatter style. We're not going to take and put pitched roofs and throw something residential in this area. East and west and south of us is all more office industrial, but this would be what would technically be a front yard side. This is a Paseo walkway side. Would be how you enter the front doors. The driveways are actually on the back side of the property and they enter the garage, but there's no front doors over on the back side. Where you enter, if you're not coming in through the garage, would be through a little walk street or Paseo area, which comes down the middle of these units here, and those access the front doors. So these are elevations of the front and rear. So you can see the garage doors on one side and then the front doors of the units on the other. They're all 2-story units. I just heard from the architect today, I think we're at 26 feet that we show here. I think we're going up to the highest at 27 feet, and that's kind of some of these middle pop-up areas will go up to 27 feet. And there's some half-foot steps that go along the building, give some articulation. This is the side of a building. There's not a lot of windows on the sides. It's more oriented front and rear where you have the windows. I mentioned earlier, this has an architectural consistency to the buildings around it. Up here in the upper left is a picture of the StoreQuest storage unit, which is a flat roof structure. And then over to the upper right and on the bottom, those are some of the buildings that are over to the east. This one in the background here, you have a red car in the parking lot, and that building behind that, I believe that's the Blue Kangaroo Child Care Center, which is right next door to the proposed units. The units, there will be 3 different sizes. They range at the largest from 1,798 total square feet down to 1,541. And they're usually attached in 4s, 5s, or 6 packs in what we have proposed. We did run a tree study. We did meet out on the site with Councilwoman Dewar. We know that trees are a hot topic and definitely currently a hot topic. And we wanted to make sure that we were trying to address this proactively. We've got 6 front yard area trees. These are all Austrian pines. And unfortunately, let's see if I can move this. There we go. The pictures were covering up my text on that side. Though most of the larger trees that you see on the site, interior to the site, there's 12 of them, and I think we have 23 total in the middle of the property. They're made up, we've got 2 Fremont cottonwoods, which are the larger deciduous trees. There's 8 in the light blue Siberian elms, and then we've got 2 black locusts. All of these are considered invasive or towards a more of an invasive end, which can be very challenging with any infrastructure, much less new infrastructure around them. Other trees on the site, there are some pear and apricot and apple, and then other trees, there's red cedar, juniper, silverleaf poplar, and I'm not even going to begin to pronounce that next one. And then we have the Austrian pines along the frontage. In taking a look at the overall site, to try and gain positive visibility for vehicles coming out, these 2 trees along the frontage that are farthest to the west, we're seeing that where it makes sense for us to come out and have the greatest visibility, the driveway would take those out. We will make the appropriate replacements for those, but we're anticipating the saving of these 4 front yard trees. And then we started looking at this. There is a red cedar and a juniper that are off to this western side, that are between a house and a garage, that in our site plan, we had those in the detention area, and I'll show you on the next slide. We're thinking those can be saved. We're making some shifts and adjustments post our meeting with Councilwoman Dewar on the site to try and save those trees, possibly others. And the other 2 that we see we could save, and these are a little challenging because they're both Siberian elms, which can be a little more invasive. So I put those in a little different color. That's going to be something that we can talk to Matt, the urban forester, about. We may have them in an area where they may not be that impactful or to the project, but we would have some concern just in the species that they are. And then we would be saving these 4 front yard evergreen, or these Austrian pines. I want to point out, we took a look back at the Google Earth aerial maps from years back. And at one point in time, along the frontage of these properties, there were about 15 or 16 Austrian pines. Some were on the PUD property, some were off. Somewhere along the line, they ended up not surviving. I'm not sure what happened, but down to a total of 6 right now we're proposing that we'd save 4 of them along the front yard, and then we'll definitely be planting more, as you can see in this landscape plan. There'll be, I think we have 189 total trees that'll be planted and or saved on the site. And I don't think that included these 2 trees over here. This was initially in a detention area. And what we've been doing today, and this actually changed right before I left the office, we were looking at possibly bringing the detention area down to the south because digging out around these trees would affect the roots. So we looked at the idea of bringing the detention down. Another idea that we kicked around was bringing this building, which is units 27 through 30, taking it down south of those trees and facing this driveway where parking exists there. The builder of this said, yeah, you know, up in our climate, the pool may not make as much sense. So we are going to get rid of the pool and go more to park open space type area for the residents and get rid of this formal facility, which will allow us to bring this unit down, which could save both of the Siberian elms if that is something that ends up making sense. And then we feel that we can save the juniper and the red cedar, which are pictured over here on the right-hand side. We do feel that those 2 trees are some of the bigger year-round prominent trees on the site, and we can incorporate those into the landscaping and the open space area with the project. So we are making some adjustments right in this area, and our efforts in doing that is to try and be sensitive to some of the trees on site. We know that the code right now, the way it exists, doesn't have this requirement, but we are trying to be sensitive to some of the things that are going on in the city and some of the conversations that are being had. So the development statistics for the project, we have 6.3 acres of land. The total residential area on just at the ground level takes up 2.59 acres. That's the units themselves. In the common area, and this is inclusive of the driveways, the common area parking lots, the open space area accounts for 3.72 acres. We have 179 residential units that will be allowed. We're only at 79 with our proposed. And the common area lots will have 2 common area lots and driveways and detention. And the gross density of the project is, again, is 12.5 dwelling units per acre, where 30 would be allowed by the zoning. So with that, I will close my presentation and be available for any questions.
Okay, I see your first hand up. Jack, go ahead.
It's not really a question. It was, well, I will preface by saying this. I've been on the NAB for around a year now, not that long. I've seen, at least a handful of the development meetings, presentations. And I don't think I have ever seen one presentation that has spent so much time on trees. And I just want to reflect how appreciative I am for that. Again, the knowledge, the precision, the transparency, very appreciative for that. And
well, thank you.
And Ward 2, we love our trees. And so again, we appreciate it.
My understanding and sensitivity to it came from watching your last meeting where the new tree ordinance was presented. And I knew that this was going to be a big issue on the site. There are some large trees. There are a lot of them are invasive. Yes, they're bigger. I understand that. But yeah, some of them, we had some that were dead. We had some that were in fair and poor condition. We did have some that were in good condition. But looking at the site, trying to find those year-round trees that really stood out. We talked to our client about it and they were very receptive. So I was very pleased that they were.
All right, thank you so much. Is that it, Jack? Yep, thank you. All right, Mara.
Again, thank you for your presentation. I think it was very well done, and appreciate the way that you presented the alternatives that you're thinking about as well. I think those are important for us to understand. I'm sure everybody else is going to have a question about inflow and outflow of the site, so I'll let them ask it in a more strategic manner than I know how to frame the question. But
Sure.
My question is, we've just been talking about affordable housing and market rate, and I'm just wondering, I don't know all the guidelines right now, especially on townhouses, but is your site going to take that into accommodation, and how is that going to reflect our board?
Well, what was funny is I listened to your presentation, all the discussions on affordable housing earlier, and I thought, oh no, they're going to ask me a question on how much these are, and I don't know the answer, and I do apologize for that. That's one that I haven't heard. I know the sizes of them, but I don't know what the builder is looking at. Now, obviously, things are always changing in this market right now, and unfortunately, I understand and am with you that things haven't necessarily been going down. They've been going up and up and up. I can get back to you through Nick and Naomi and just let them know, hey, this is what we're anticipating the ranges to be. But by the time they actually get this built, it's probably going to be in the year plus or minus range when they're getting the first ones up and going. I have no idea where the market's going to be at that point.
But it wasn't actually even about what the cost is, but if they're taking into accommodation some of these market rate affordability guidelines, and if
No, and
put some of that off to the
haven't
side.
been taking any of the density bonuses or anything relative. And what you end up getting with the code is density bonus allowances. If you bring in some of the affordable housing, we're actually coming in well under in terms of density. So we don't need to bump the density up at all. We feel it's a good product. It's a product that's in demand, and we're in a situation where we definitely need affordable housing. We kind of need all of it. There was a discussion. I'm a trained economist, and the supply and demand thing hit me straight. I understand that. Naomi and I have talked about that before. And it's just, we knew this was coming, where we were going to be at a deficit on a lot of things 7 or 8 years ago when the Tesla deal was done. And we just didn't prepare. And now it's hitting a square between the eyes.
So
Right. Well,
David,
that
when
was,
does it level out, since you're an economist? Does it take 10 years or?
I wish I knew the answer, because if you put 10 economists in a room and ask them to come up with an answer, they're going to come out with 10 different opinions. So I really don't know what the answer to that is. I know that we're still back on the bad side of the supply and demand, where we've just got excess demand. And
well, that was Mike's whole presentation, right, Naomi? Like that was Edon's whole presentation, is that we have to catch up with our demand.
Yeah, and it's largely at all levels.
I would say, I mean, if other people want to see that pricing point, that's fine. But I would say, to me, it's moot, because by the time we get to the release, I'd rather see it closer to the release date, because by the time we get to 18 to even 24 months out, it's not, we need it closer to the date, because not only supply and demand of the product itself, but the increase in price of lumber, labor, all that. So whatever you come back with in the next 2 weeks isn't going to be what it will be when it goes.
I agree. All we can give you is our best estimate at this point.
Thank you.
Donna?
Hi, thank you. That was a good presentation. I had a couple of questions. One was, you showed architectural style compatible with an semi-industrial nature of the area. They look nice, but why is there so much gravel everywhere?
And that's just in the artist rendering. That's one, and I've had conversations about the gravel in the Heat Island area. Now, a lot of these in this model actually came out of either a product in Vegas or a product in Phoenix, where they really do use gravel a lot. Yeah, that was one thing. I got them to change the trees in it away from palm trees to more deciduous and or evergreens. So we did get that change in. The gravel escaped.
That's just a drawing, I get it. But maybe you could mention to your client that all that gravel isn't helping anything, A, and B, you look at your landscape plan, you meet all the requirements, you have everybody likes to be happy about how, we're allowed to build this many units on our acreage, but we're so good, we're going to build a whole lot less. So nevertheless, on a whole lot less, Yeah, still don't have a whole lot of place for people to mingle. You have the one really nice area where the swimming pool comes out. But what you have is just this gravel stuff. So just tell your clients that if they don't have front yards that somebody might like to sit on the porch and sit on and they're looking at hot gravel, it's just, it's not, there's a way to bring a friendly feel in. And I'm not talking about sod. I'm talking about, well, you know what I'm talking about, I think. But
Well,
anyway,
on that, I'm going to jump in, Donna. It's very interesting that you're mentioning that, because when we went on site, I actually mentioned the same exact thing with all the gravel in the pictures, because I'd just been over it with Matt Basil. He had done some thermometer tests last summer on 100-degree days and had measured the rock areas. On the 100-degree day, it was 158 degrees on the rock.
I know.
And when he moved the rock away, it was 138 degrees underneath. When he measured the mulch, it was 110. And when he scraped it away right below, it was 105. So I think what you're getting at is maybe more mulch, more, in amongst the xeriscape, which in amongst the trees.
Yeah,
You know,
more
if there's
mulch,
some-
because the roots won't survive. Anything you plant, when it gets that hot under all that stuff, first of all, the plants won't, but then there's the human element that I keep yapping about, which is where's the mingling parks open space? I mean, I'm glad you have access to these trails. That will be great. But when you look at your site plan from above, you still have a whole bunch of rectangles. And they're just like offset here and there. I'm not saying I don't like the look of it. I'm saying it's just still a bunch of rectangles. So when you say you underdevelop your 6 acres, maybe there's some higher, better use of some corner to do something with, so it's not just all rectangles, because there has to be a human engagement feeling to it, which it's hard to, that's just my comment. It doesn't affect the quality
Yeah,
of your.
and I want to point out, and I think it's a very good comment. And I think one of the things that we're going to end up with when we move the building over to the western side, we're going to have this area that's all going to be open. And I've talked to our engineer, rather than doing a deeper detention area here, we could spread out and make that detention area only like a 2 to 3 drop and make it 2 to 3 foot drop, make it very gradual. So that whole area becomes usable, except if it's inundated, which we don't get that very often here, but there would be times when it would be used as a detention, but the rest of the time.
But most of the time
And
you
then
have space.
we've also got this area in here, which serves the same type of purpose. So yes, I see your point on there's a lot of rectangles, but there's also a lot of area in here that's centrally located in the subdivision.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, okay, I get that. That's right near where you enter and it all looks nice, but look at your backside, it's just like, there isn't anything back there. I know the distance isn't that great if people want to be afoot, but it's
Yeah.
kind of.
This is where the park access would take off. We've got a sidewalk that goes out, and that will access right onto the trail system, which can take you up.
Okay.
I can't remember what the distance is. I want to say it's the 0.6 of a mile, I think, and that's going up and over the trail to get to Huffaker Park. But then you also have the passive recreation trail network right behind. Right
Okay, well that answers my question. I have one other thing. I think it's in the preceding or the next slide.
Okay, let me
if you could go
close that. There we go.
No, it's a
what did it
it's
show?
actually a picture. It's actually a picture of, I think it's something adjacent, or maybe there's a long linear structure that looks like a drainage, that looks like it might trend east-west, and it butts up into what's been built over and compacted.
Was it a picture?
I think, yeah, it was a picture. And I think keep going.
Okay. I think that was my last picture there. Is it something that was on the site, Donna?
That's what I wanted to ask you about. I couldn't tell. It's a geographic feature. It's not huge. Looks like it trends east-west.
If I could jump in, I mean, I think David, she is talking about the canal, kind of a drainage area that I asked you about as well, maybe.
Oh yeah, the drainage that comes across, and unfortunately I don't have that plan in here, but there is a drainage that comes across the site, kind of like this.
You had a picture though.
Yeah, and well, I don't know if I did. Oh, you know where it shows up? I just remembered I do have that drawing that it does show up on where I had the trees.
Yeah.
On this
okay.
one. Okay, so there is a drainage that comes through here with these arrows. That comes up and then comes down on the property and gets piped here. When the Blue Kangaroo site was developed, that used to open channel flow and that got piped. And you can see where the pipe, we'll pick up the pipe here and it flows down through their driveway and part of their parking. So with this is drainage that comes underneath the freeway. It's basically pass through water. So what we're doing with this is we're going to pipe it along here, and then we're going to bring it up between a couple of the buildings, and then we're going to come out and still make this pipe connection. But there is a drainage that runs parallel to the driveway across the property and then pipes out on the eastern side.
Have you done a geotechnical on this at all?
Yes.
What's the subsurface? How far did you
I
bore
don't
yourself?
recall. I think I have that included as part of the application
Okay.
package.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Dave, I do have a question. I used to drive that when our flood project was located over there on Gateway, like right behind that property.
Mhm.
I drove Gateway every day for years. And when you're heading, say, east, or on Gateway, like towards the old flood project building, that corner can be blind.
Yeah, and that's really why we wanted to get the access point out to a better point. We fortunately had an outside of a curve that we could get on where visibility would be good either direction. And I know cars don't always go the speed limit, so we wanted to make it as safe a vehicular access as we possibly could.
Do they really plan on putting, I see on the site adjustment plan and the other plan that they've got all these trees that are planned for right there on the edge of the property. Are those trees?
It's right along here, and we had LA Studio Nevada prepare this, and I think that this meets the street tree requirement. There were, as I mentioned before, there were 16 evergreens, and I know that the South Meadows PUD really put a much heavier emphasis on evergreens. They wanted to have more evergreens planted, and by looking at the old aerial map, it looked like there were probably 15 or 16 Austrian pines planted along here. These would end up being deciduous trees. They'd be higher. You'd still have the visibility below where you need that for the vehicular access and the vision triangles. We'd make sure that when we're planting along the entry exit area here that we have clear visibility, and where we've situated the access, we're going to have as good a visibility as we could have on this property, but given the bends in the road.
This is a really weird little spot that when it snows, for some reason, the snow does not melt on this section of Gateway.
Oh, really?
It's very, very bizarre. I've noticed that every year when it snows and you're driving, and Mara's shaking her head, yes. When you're driving on this, that curved part, it does not melt. It's very, very slick. And so the reason why I'm asking you is like with all of these trees and how far, are the trees going to be set back from the road? That it's a blind corner. It can be very slick. Now we've got trees. We're increasing the traffic. I'm just saying that this is one of the issues that we have on this and our neighborhood advisory board as board members, is that we all live in these areas and we all frequent all of these roads. And so there are, we like to point out, hey, this is where we live. This is where we frequent. And we bring up these traffic issues, and then nobody ever listens to us, and nobody ever takes our word for what we say. But I'm just telling you that it's a blind corner. The snow doesn't melt here. We're going to be adding to the traffic, and it's really weird. So if you're looking at the picture, the one that's looking west, you want to make sure you gotta have some setback from the edge of that curve back with those trees. I mean, it looks really mild and it looks like a really nice drive, but it's not. It's a really horrible stretch of road. People drive way too fast around those corners. I've seen multiple cars heading west, coming around it by the storage units and head off into that dirt lot. I've seen all kinds of stuff happening in this stretch of road all the years I was driving to the flood project to work every day. So I just want to make that known to you guys as you're thinking about this, and that you wouldn't think, it seems very unassuming, but that's a little nasty stretch of road right there.
Well, that, what you just said, Mimi, that may answer some question about where at least some of the trees went that used to be out here of the 15 or 16, because that's right in this area. I would have never guessed that the snow wouldn't melt off of this stretch.
It doesn't.
It doesn't seem to have the shadowing. It doesn't seem to have those things that would tell you, yeah, this might be a slick spot.
It does. I'm sorry to interject, but Mimi's right. You see in the picture on the right where it's all dark and shadowed across the street, there's a little bit of a ridge there. And I think that shadow effect right on the curve,
right on the corner,
causes the slick that Mimi's talking about.
Okay.
Or at least
And
that's
that would
where
make
I've
some
seen
sense
it,
on the
is
shadowing.
it's really dangerous because it can be it's a blind curve, and
Even further east, but that's a really blind curve. When people are coming in front of those apartments and they come around and they're heading east, they are flying around that corner. I've seen them flying around and they head off into the dirt where the big billboard sign is sitting there in the dirt across from the storage unit. I mean, I've seen all kinds of crazy things happen in this stretch of road. And you, like I said,
well, it's good. That is good to know. That's, I serve on advisory boards myself, and we know our neighborhoods better than the people presenting most cases. So I appreciate that information on this. And that's
well, and let me ask, isn't this Mimi where the road transitions from, I think, Gateway into Offenhauser?
Yes.
And then into Patriot. And we've gotten a lot of complaints about fast driving in that little section. I've had whole community meetings right there.
Yes.
So I guess it is something, maybe you're going to have to slow down the speed there, Dave.
Yep.
Okay. Then that's a good, I'm going to put speeds on Gateway down as a concern.
And maybe
area.
you can move some of the trees over to the, if you're looking at the plan straight ahead, it would be on the left. I'm not sure if it's a north side.
Yeah, and you know, there is a mound here, and there was a slope easement. And I have a feeling that was put in when the PUD was originally developed and the road was created to protect the homes that were back there, the couple ranch houses, to protect them from noise. You know, that mounding can remain and we can get the trees a little bit farther back, as noted in this slide. All the way along here in the front, we've got a lot of room that we can move them back. Here, we've got something coming a little closer, and here we got something coming a little closer, but we do have ample space to not put those right up by the edge, that we can get them shifted back a little bit. And with the mounding that's there, that creates other gravity factors that, you know, people may not, it may be a safer landing if they do get themselves out of control.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to mention right now is responding to Julia Hammett and I think Donna's comment about community and green space and gathering space. You may want to, if you're moving buildings or whatever you're doing, but wherever you end up with your open space, you may want a community garden or something that is circular or something that is a gathering spot. Let's even say, if it wasn't right up by the road, you know, maybe it's where you're moving the buildings back sort of in the community. You know, maybe there is a, you know, I don't know what other word to use, but like a fire pit or something with some benches, you know, something round and something where people could gather. You know, I don't see a children's play area here. I don't know if they're going to be children. Is this
there will probably be some. It would not be age restricted, so we would have some children that would be here, and I'd imagine we'll probably have some type of a play area as part of the open space areas out here in the front.
Yeah. Well, anyway, just a thought is to think about what you can do to make this, we heard earlier, feel like a community, right? Because it's going to be isolated from any other residential areas. Maybe that is a community garden space.
Yeah, we are directly adjacent to the apartments on Offenhauser.
Oh,
so
right.
We're right up at the edge. It's that transitional zone. It could easily be more offices or things like that, but it could also be something else with the MF30 zoning. It makes some sense in transition, a little bit different housing than is out there right now. I have some other questions. I see some hands raised.
Patrick, you're up.
Yeah, I have a quick question on flight path. I think you guys are, this project is in the 60 decibel pattern that would raise a red flag with the airport authority.
Yeah.
Have you dealt with that yet?
We haven't. I would anticipate that we'll have the requirement for navigation easement, and if there's any double paned windows or things like that, I've dealt with that in the past on projects. If that's one of the requirements so that the airport doesn't get complaints, we'd fully expect that.
I think they might be triple pane because I think double pane is already required as part of the building code, but.
Okay. And yeah, whatever gets the sound attenuation to where it needs to be. Is I know there was retrofitting that was done up closer to Puffacre Park. That was something I worked on years and years ago with the flight path. So yeah, this is in the same general alignment as that. A good observation.
Patrick, any more questions?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much. Julia.
Okay, back to the green area, and Council Member Dewar sort of brought this up too, but I'm looking at that little patch of green to the right of the pool. And I am remembering that you said there's a drainage that kind of runs through it.
Mhm.
And another thing that we locals that drive that road a lot know that, especially in the winter, that ducks and geese jam into every little puddle they can find in any of the fields around there. And there's a little drainage right next to the fitness club on the other side of the fitness club. And sometimes I've seen as many as 50 ducks in there at one time, just all jammed in there. But it would be very cool to use what you already have going on there to perhaps create some sort of small pond pool in there that could be something that could have benches around it, which could be, and maybe a fire pit, I don't know, but some sort of community area there that would, I mean, you'd have waterfowl that already kind of hang out there that would come in more in the winters but also, it'd just be a nice area instead of like hiding it under a pipe and getting it out of here. Why not sort of embrace the drainage? And I don't know anything about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, part of it becomes a challenge. If that's our detention area, let's say we have this area where the pool will go away and we have a big area here and we make it larger than what we have shown right now, which means we don't have to make it as deep and we can slope the sides a little bit differently. If we have that area intermingling the pass-through water with the water generated from the site can be kind of a challenge. If you get a big runoff time, that all of a sudden you find out you don't have enough capacity that you thought you had from your own site. I know the engineers, they're a lot smarter than I am, and they can probably figure those numbers out. But yeah, that's where you run into a little bit of challenge intermingling those two.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so we've got a couple public comments, and I've got Donna will be the last because we still have one more project to discuss. So Donna.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were, okay. The slide that shows what I was thinking of is on your tree survey with all your colored dots on the trees.
Okay.
That one. Yeah. And you've got that big linear for going from, I don't know what you're at north area.
It's the drainage.
That's the
Yeah,
drainage?
this is the drainage coming
Okay,
through
so that's
here.
the drainage and it comes up here and goes in a pipe.
Yeah, it comes over here. I think it may get piped here. It's not open channel flowing because there's a driveway that comes up through here, but then it gets piped in this driveway over where.
But isn't that where
Kangaroo
you're
is.
gonna make your detention basin is to the left hand off the slide over there?
The detention area, let's see, these two trees here are the two, that's the red cedar and the juniper. So those are two that are in the middle of the detention area right now. This area is going to become a detention area. We're going to pipe this and we can route it down along the southern end and then bring it up and get it back in between a couple buildings and then back into this pipe. So in our site plan, it's going to go between these two buildings here. So we had it running. We didn't have it running under the pool. We had it running out closer to the frontage of the property. and then up between these two buildings, and then it would connect in with the pipe.
Okay, thank you.
We've got
Thank
a
you.
couple public comments, Nick. We've got Valerie Tilson and then Jennifer Baker also had put in a comment. Would either one of these ladies like to ask their question?
Yeah, would you like me to promote them, or do you just want to read their questions in the chat?
I can go ahead and promote them and see if they would like to ask their question.
Oh, sorry, I just promoted Valerie and now I see that she said we could read. So,
Oh, go
Valerie,
ahead and
if
read
you-
it. Okay, I'll go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Let me scroll back up here. Okay, Valerie says, with increased traffic, can the intersection still be able to handle the increased flow during shift or peak hours? And then also concerned about future snow removal. If the flow goes to the pipe at the Blue Kangaroo, is that going to cause effect to them? And rumble strips for slowdowns. And then she had one more comment that was concerns of common green areas next to main driveway, concerns of safety for the kids. So she's concerned probably because there's no sidewalk about the kids, walking home or walking along the road. School, safety for school bus stops, issues with a pipe that goes by the Blue Kangaroo, and then increased traffic flows during peak hours in that section of that road.
Yeah, the drainage from this site will all actually come out up here. We have a detention area, very linear detention area up along the northern edge of the property. Just north of us, there is a City of Reno detention facility or channel, and that's where the pass-through water and the detention water from the mini storage that's to the west of us, that comes out the back and then along through this. Everything up here, it tends to go north. Now we have a slope that comes down and carries the water through this channel across the site, and that's pass-through water that'll go out differently than our site detention water. If we were to get our water to come back over this way, we would have to elevate this side of the site by probably 2.5 to 3 feet to get it to drain back the other way. But we do have a detention area that'll be down in here where we've been talking about, but also one thing that we didn't talk about previously, you can see this riprap line area that will be a linear detention channel that will collect water that comes down off of the site in here, and that'll go in. Our plan is to go into this drainage that is passing through this water that also comes across the freeway and takes their detention and then heads up north towards Huffaker Park. I know there were multiple parts to that question. I know one of them was safety along the entryways. One of the aspects of this, there will be fencing all the way around the site. There's actually gates right here. So this area will be gated off where people are just coming in. So there will be fencing either side. Pedestrian access will be brought in on both sides. And we will have a sidewalk along here. That's been a question, I think, in the PUD for South Meadows. I think they only had sidewalk in a lot of areas on one side. And it's kind of interesting because if you go to the west, you connect to the sidewalk that was put in with the mini storage. So there is a place to go. And we don't really have a good answer yet from staff. But if we go to the east, all of a sudden the sidewalk disappears. There's no sidewalk when you get to Blue Kangaroo or farther down. There is sidewalk on the other side of the street, however. So the typical for the City of Reno is you have to put a 5-foot sidewalk in adjacent to your property. That's just a standard requirement. In this area, it's kind of an oddity in that we wouldn't be connecting to anything. If we going over to the eastern side, going to the western side, we definitely do connect in with an existing sidewalk, and that goes up along the sidewalk along Offenhauser.
You got it. And then have you guys done a traffic, obviously you've probably done a traffic study to see how that portion of the road is, like we're talking about, can handle the peak flow?
Yeah, and actually this doesn't require traffic analysis because of peak hour traffic per the City of Reno code. So no, there has not been a traffic study done.
Okay. That could be. All right, thank you. And then the last comment we had was from Jennifer Baker. I don't know if this is something you can answer. Dave, she said each of these units will not have a lot of light inside of them with windows only in the front and back of the home. How do you plan to do lighting inside the units with sensible pricing considering the cost of power has increased?
And that's something that I'd have to rely more on my architect and the designers for that. I usually know a lot about the outside, but not as much about the inside. So I apologize for that.
Thank you. And so with everybody that's listening, to my board members, we get the project review form. We can have Nick send those to us. You can also go on, if you could put the link in, Nick, for the project review form for anybody that's our guests that are in attendance of the NAB meeting today. If anybody wants to comment on these projects, which we strongly advise, with some of things of your concerns and areas you'd like to add, so that they will be passed on to the planning department and then again to the planning commission. So does anybody else have
I'll
anything?
run down the list that I wrote as we were talking. They were appreciative of the tree discussion, the concerns about the gravel. And then I wrote one that said not, and then I stopped onto a different thought. So I can't remember what that one was, but speeds, put the trees back from Gateway Drive right of way. I appreciate that insight. There was comment relative to community garden being maybe one of the amenities that can go in. Green area safety by the project entry, and that was largely associated with child safety and the question about traffic study.
Excellent.
So
all right, Dave,
I thank you very much for the comments tonight. They were very good, and I do enjoy presenting in front of this board. So thank you and have a good night.
You too. Thank you so
Well,
much.
and before you go, I have
Councilwoman.
to commend you again, Dave, for listening both to me on site and to this group here. And what you're hearing reflected back to you as an acknowledgement is that you're doing something called active listening. You are actually hearing what I said, and you went to make some changes. You've heard what they've said. I mean, you're kind of living the dream of what these NABs are supposed to be about and how to make projects better, right? Just how to make them fit better into the community. So
yeah,
kudos.
I appreciate all the comments that you gave that day. Both Seb and I were on the same page. We talked afterwards. We said a lot of those stories weren't just words. we know.
I made talk an allegory and anecdote to kind of make a point sometimes. Yes.
Well, thank you very much again. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, Dave. You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Nick, see if we can go back to our B61, our master plan amendment, DP2 master plan amendment. Hopefully we're all good and we're ready to roll.
I'm promoting everyone now. Hopefully it
So,
works.
board members, we probably are going to go past 8:30. I hope everybody's okay with that this evening. Great input on all the items on that last project, you guys. Really great discussion. Good job.
Mimi, while everyone's coming on, I just want to note, I did send you and the board an article that came up literally in my news feed about Reno apartment pricing.
Thank you, I opened it up and I saved it to its own tab. I was like, oh, this is perfect timing. Yeah, everybody take a look at that. It's so interesting and appalling at the same time.
I think just for, especially after the open meeting law discussion, if you could put that in the chat so the public could see it too. That
Sure,
would be
I'll
good.
move it to the chat. Thank you, Nick. I wasn't sure, so thanks for clarifying.
And I couldn't hear John Kropotkin. It looked like he was trying to speak. John, did you get on a phone?
Yeah, so you'll have to use your phone as well, and your phone should be able to unmute.
Is that working now? That star
Now it
six
is,
feature? Okay.
Yes.
Wow. I apologize. Please bear with me. There's some Wi-Fi connection issue I've never experienced. Horrible. Thank you. Oh, that's frustrating. My gosh. John Kropotkin here. I've got Jim Dolan on the line. He is the owner and the developer of this with his family, the Dolan family, many of them around the country, around the community. And then Jennifer Baker. Jennifer's with us because, as you guys know better than I, we wanted some expertise on managing this horse issue. Jennifer knows it very well.
So I would like to just, go through my slides on focusing on the master plan amendment, the land use issues, and then give Jennifer whatever time she needs, a few minutes, to discuss the horse, anything to do with horses. And with that, let's get to the slides. Thank you for your patience with me, and thank you all for being here. I've been here for almost 3 hours like you guys have. Going to share screen now.
We can see your PowerPoint. It's still in power. Yeah, there you go.
Are we good?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a master plan amendment for from unincorporated transition to single family neighborhood as an extension of the Lennar neighborhood. We know that now as Palisades. It's located next to the almost completed Lennar Palisades project, downhill of the approved Canyons project. We have also presented Canyons Edge to you, so you guys know where that is in relation to this. Here's a different perspective. I think this shows a really good feel for the topography and the relationship to Lennar. It really is almost adjacent to it, just above it. This road right here is that dead end stub that points directly into the project. So we wanted to give you kind of a three-dimensional view of the site. There's the 8 acres, and the red boundary is about a third of the site. It's difficult to scale it because we got kind of that weird polygon in a 3D world, but that's the way it sits in that perspective. There is the existing master plan UT, the yellow, which is predominant in the area, is single family neighborhood. That's what we're asking for. The orange line, which is significant to all of this, is the existing city limit line that has been that way for years. The property was brought into the city over 15 years ago. And this is kind of the last remainder piece in the city limits. Here is the proposed master plan. Again, single family neighborhood is an extension of Lennar. Those designations aside, on the other side of the line, the orange, the orange boundary, SR is suburban res. That's a designation in Washoe County, rural res south of there, and so on. Project concept. I wanted to share this with you guys because even though, we're at a master plan stage, the way we do this as best we can is to figure out what's appropriate for the site. And then that drives largely the master plan amendment. So here's the concept of which we did to be real sensitive to the topography and the environment out of which this sits. I'd like to walk through these concepts. Environmentally sensitive site design with respect to creating, clustering, and preserving trees. Notice all the specks, the black specks south of the water tank and above the project, some of which are on the property. That's a stand of trees of which has been there for years. They're not big trees, but we are preserving all of those trees. Use the flatter area of the site for placement of the homes. We'll get to that with a little more detail in the topographic analysis in a future slide. By the way, you can see Palisades. I hope we know all the street names here, and then Canyons, PUD, above us, up the hill to the north and to the east. The fourth bullet point is preserving the large stand of mature trees above the units. Next is minimal grading needed for the roads and the units. We're trying to be real sensitive to that with the clustering concept and townhome product. Most of the site will remain an open space. I think, you know, it wouldn't matter which professional I think you're talking to. We learn a certain way to approach a piece of land like this. And the idea is to maximize open space, minimize disturbance, and cluster. And then the last bullet point is that the project does use infrastructure that is already provided for. It's really planned for. But once it's planned for, that's the key point. And what that really means is the roadway network that goes all the way down to South Meadows, and the water and sewer infrastructure that's being planned for and delivered with the Canyons project. So here's a little zoom of the site with the topographic analysis. This is a slope map. I've shared this with you in the past. It's a great, simple tool for all of us to look at. It's easy on the eyes, and the colors are obvious, where green means that's the area we're going to target our development on. And so what we have is the road that comes in. By the way, all of these will be fire sprinkler. We have a single point of access. We have met with the fire marshal, Trey Palmer, on this, had his feedback. He says no problem with regard to the distance of which it serves, and the fact that they will all be fire sprinklered with a cul-de-sac at the end of the project that is meets the fire standards in the radius or of the diameter of the cul-de-sac. So those are, you know, 4 and then 6 and then 4 more units on the downhill side, 4 above it. Those are attached townhomes, is the concept that Mr. Dolan has for the property. And then there is a little more detail on the use. Again, that shows 8 acres, 2/3 of which is open space, and then the units clustered in the flat area. That's all I have. I do have a slide on zoning. I didn't want to confuse you guys with zoning. A lot of times, this has been my experience, since we're focused on a master plan amendment, I wanted to focus on the master plan proposed, existing and proposed, and all of that goes into that. I expected staff to be here. Perhaps Brooke Oswald is here. I'm not sure if he is or isn't. I don't see everybody on, but he could weigh in as well.
John, staff is on. Kyle Chisholm is in the audience.
Say again.
Staff is on. Kyle Chisholm is in the audience.
Oh, Kyle Chisholm's in the audience. Okay. So, yeah, that's kind of the basic overview. And I would just like to gladly welcome any feedback, input you guys have, as you did on the last case. Jennifer has some perspective on the horses. Jennifer, would you like to share any comments with the neighborhood board?
Hi, if anyone is interested, I know the only questions that anyone has asked in the past about it was if this interferes with the horses in any way. Can you go back to I think it's the 3rd slide down?
This one there, Jen?
Sure, that'll work. So if everyone wants to just follow, if you notice, I can't show, I don't have a pointer option on my screen. My apologies, everyone. But if you notice where the red square is to the left, you can look over and see where the water tank is. That road that goes all the way up to that water tank already has the existing fence. And then just a little bit behind the red on the right-hand side is, or excuse me, on the back side, the south side. Yes, right there where that pointer is about where the other fence, and both of those fences already exist. They're the appropriate fence according to Tracy Wilson when she points out which fences are done. Those have been done for quite a while. So this project is actually inside the existing fencing area, minus that little area to the left that's outside of the actual building area. That's in a different area. I believe, John, correct me, isn't that what's going to be left as open space already?
That is correct, Jennifer.
So every part where the actual buildings are inside the already existing fencing area that will not affect the horses in any way, shape, or form. And that was the only reason I know I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. And we were hoping that Tracy would be on with us, but I think she has some personal issues she's dealing with today. So just wanted to point that out. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer any other part of it, but it won't affect the horses in any way at all.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
So with that, Madam Chair, do you want to, however you want to manage this, we're ready for any questions.
I see Donna's got her hand up. Donna, go ahead.
Thank you. I always have my hand up, I guess. I was wanted to know. Okay, the northwest corner, at least I believe it's northwest. Can't really see it that well. The northwest corner of your building area looks to me like.
Did you say the building area, Donna? You want a different map just so I can understand your question? Do you mean
the slope map? Give me the slope map.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Okay.
right there. Okay, northwest. I'm so sorry. Northeast is what my fried brain meant to say. The northeast group of buildings. That looks like a pretty. It looks like you're building it on top of a drainage. The second one.
That's not this one here.
Where the
It's not a drainage way.
No, not that. Where the red. Okay, northeast corner. Second.
John, it's the same thing I asked you earlier today.
Oh,
it's funny, Donna. You and I tend to think the same way. I asked the same exact question. It's yes.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand, please, Donna. You're saying this little feature right here, you see the V's, right?
Yeah, I see the V's, understand the V's. They keep going down. They're in your high slope area. There's the northwest.
Right, then they're cut off here.
Huh? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
You're saying right here, and then it's cut off and wrapped around the project. That's what's going on. The same thing would happen right here, where it's a very small drainage area. We would collect it here and along the roadway, the back of the project.
So you're going to fill?
Same idea.
Is that what you're going to do? And then.
Well, that's going to stay exactly as it is as you see it there.
Well, that's offsite. I think she's saying where you have a building on the red.
Yeah, the part that you're building, not the surrounding part. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, this piece right here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is graded. We've gone through the hillside ordinance. There's a tiny bit of red of which will be graded, right? The code allows for that.
Okay.
So I think she was asking, where is the drainage going? Like there's water coming there through now. That's, I think, what she's asking.
Yeah, I think she's talking about this right here. It's cut off right there. You see that topo? And then it's wrapped around the Lennar project, just like they do typically with the small drainage feature. You either do a cutoff ditch or you reroute it with the grading of the site, and there it is. It's cut off a little bit.
Let's ask it this way, John. Is there a pipe going underneath the house? I mean, how's the water getting from the uphill side of the project to the downhill side of the project? Is it being routed around? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly right. It's routed around, adjacent to the high end of the project right here. That's what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions this evening? Let's see. Anything in the chat? Patrick, Julie, Tyler, nobody? I just have a question. So with that last remaining piece like that was UT. Why is it that didn't get incorporated at the same time as the other section into the master plan change? I was just wondering that. why this one was the last one. Why didn't it go like maybe as a bulk group or something?
You mean with the canyons projects?
Yeah, I mean, I know this one was that, you guys just kind of systematically like just do like one section at a time, or, I was just wondering why.
No, it's a good question. I think it was about timing of infrastructure. The families owned it, for I understand, since 2005 or 2006.
John, can I add on to this?
No, please go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Hi, Mimi.
Hi, Jim.
When this is a Dolan Properties too, our initial project was Dolan Properties, which is the current Palisades.
Right.
When we did this project, there was 120 acres. We carved off this section at the time. It wasn't able to be serviced by the infrastructure planned by Palisades mostly because the water tank you see on the right side of this picture, this D4 water tank, it wasn't in the pressure zone. So we carved this piece off for future development, which ended up being 15, 16 years later. But that's why the zoning was different at the time and not necessary at the time. But now, since infrastructure is there and we can access this with other facilities, now we're looking for the zoning change, if that answers your question.
Absolutely. Makes 100% perfect sense. I wasn't sure what the timing was, but yeah, I get that. Yeah. 15 years later, you're like, yay, we've got infrastructure.
Yeah, well, sometimes it just takes a little bit of time, but I'd also like to note on this project, it is a family project, with my Uncle Tom and Uncle Mike and my brothers, and we are obviously looking to have a project that makes sense with open space, plenty of it, like most of it does, and we have 18 units, which is what we need for this project to be economical, of 8.05 acres. I know the dynamics are different. The last project was 79 units on 6.3 acres. So we're doing this clustering concept to maximize the open space. And like Jen was saying, it's in the area as far as wildlife is concerned. It's already fenced off, and so those issues are solved for here. But we think this is a good project, a lot of open space, and makes sense as it connects to the Lennar project as it exists right now.
So let me ask, so you said these are townhomes, Jim and John?
Yes.
Okay, so you did that so you could you have, obviously it looks like 0 lot lines, correct?
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we have no.
Yeah, those are attached. There are lot lines on one side, Mimi, and then
okay, they're attached.
Kind of clusters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're attached. Yeah.
1 story or 2?
2 hillside adaptive architecture, so that
Gotcha.
we're minimizing grading that way. They kind of fall down the hill with the topography.
Makes
You
sense.
get it.
So it's interesting in looking at the map that's, the slope map. There's a couple of the parcels, over there at over there by that cul-de-sac and the last one especially is primarily in the red. So are you guys going to have to do bring in more fill for that lot, or what's the deal with that one over there at the end of the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, we're not into. You're talking about that band of red that goes through that one here.
Yeah.
I don't have the grades, the detail. Is John our engineer on? Maybe he knows off the top of his head what the elevation is at the road and then the back of the lot. What we have in concept there, Mimi, and I think you guys all get this, is the rockery wall at the back of the lot. So that's about 6 feet of grade. And then we take up a full story split in the unit, right? So you figure there's about 8 or 15 feet. Let's see. Yeah, 8 plus 6, say 15 feet total, of which we're doing between the architecture and the unit and the rock wall. So that just about covers it, right? If you look at about an average slope of 20%, 80 foot deep, that's 16 feet of grade change. You see the math there?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was looking at the legend, because your slope table we've got between 30% and 100% in that, with that's in the red. So I
Yeah.
was just wondering, just because that, that just seems like quite a, that one was mostly primarily red underneath the footprint of the building. So.
The code allows for grading and
yeah, of course,
the red for these reasons because of the way this, Mother Nature,
yeah,
right? There's whoop-de-doos, there's ups and downs, and it's just not all bands of green and yellow that go together. So we have something like that, and we got to deal with it. What's that, John?
I was just going to say, and there is some cut, and there is some cut generated, and so we wouldn't be bringing any dirt in, but we would be, filling some of that area in with the dirt that's generated, say, from the lots on the south side. So they'll generate a little bit material. We'll put it on the low side, so cut and fill, balance on site. The rockery walls to blend in naturally. I think the Palisades has a couple of rockery walls that aren't shown on this plan. They also did the same thing, basically just try to make up that steep part of the slope with a wall or two.
okay, yeah, I'm just checking, most of it's pretty good. Just that last one just seems to be, looks like it's got the most slope on. So thank you, John and Jim and John, for those explanation. Mara, you've got your hand up.
I just wanted to say thank you for doing the work with the wildlife and the horses and bringing Jennifer in to confirm that that's being addressed. I know that that's a hot button for all of us, and we want to make sure that it's safe for everybody. And then my comment always comes back to affordable housing, and have you thought about putting in any of those market rate type of accommodations?
Like Jim, I don't want to speculate on pricing. It's like you hear this
Yeah,
every project now, because it takes another year or so after approval to actually deliver product,
And it has to pencil out. I understand that, but we are in a crisis and have, teachers and every type of, service
I
people here.
totally, yeah, I appreciate your comment. Jim and I, Jim, I'm just going to say this. We've talked about this volunteering. Jim is going to volunteer a contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund, knowing that this is going to be not entry-level housing, right? They're nicer, higher-end townhomes. I don't know what that means in today's pricing, but so he is going to make a per-unit contribution to that Affordable Housing Fund. Just in good faith, every little bit helps, right, on a per-unit assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia?
Hi, I read a comment or a question by Valerie Tilson, and I just want to read it out loud or state it for myself. I agree. What are y'all gonna do to protect this property from wildfires? It's a long trip out there for fire trucks. And are you gonna have some sort of fire break, or you're right there on the edge of the wildlands?
Yeah, we had, you look at response time. John, do you remember what our response time was in meeting with the fire captain? Was sprinklers. And then, typical defensible space kind of fuel management, right? That's what we talked about in preparing for this.
So you're going to
John, do you remember any more?
Buffer, and you're doing sprinklers in the units.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is all driven by, Julia, that the WUI designation, right? Wildland Urban Interface, and its designation on this particular property. So we have that set of standards. Some of it's a menu, but the fire department is pretty aggressive in my experience in making sure that that's done properly.
Oh, they absolutely do their best, but it is,
Yes.
you know, in a those fires, they do their best too. They can move really fast, and you know, you're out there right on the edge. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it said the distance to the fire station is 5 miles, but it doesn't say the response time. But the Reno Fire Department, they were satisfied that, you know, with the sprinklers, they had adequate time to get there with the single point of access.
Are those utilities, is that Temwa and City of Reno sewer guys on this project?
What was the question?
So I see existing Temwa water tanks. So the water is coming from Temwa. That's, I mean, you guys are hooked up to the City of Reno sewer?
Yeah, this is city sewer and Tumwalt water. Yes, a different tank, right? That tank happens to serve other properties, but you know about the pressure zones. There's not enough.
Right.
There's not enough grade change to make pressures work there. Yes.
And then obviously, are these roads? These roads are public roads.
Did we confirm, John, if this is going to be dedication or private?
Dedication of what? I'm sorry. I didn't hear the question.
The roads?
Yeah, it's public street. Yes, public
That's
street.
what I thought we were. I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, we were dedicating.
Got it. Yeah, I'm just wondering if they were public or private. So, all right. So everything, and the Palisades as well. Everything is that all public as well, leading up to this?
That's all leading up to it is all public. Yes.
All public. Okay. So there's no private
Yeah.
in any of the developments that are surrounding.
No.
No.
Okay.
It's all public street network.
Got it. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Board members or any of our lovely citizens that are still hanging in here with us? Anyone else? Okay, Patrick, hello, welcome back. What's your question?
I'll just go really quick. Is there a HOA or LMA proposed to manage the brush removal and any sort of landscaping, common area landscaping?
Yeah, we're going to have one, right? Whenever you have common area, it pretty much guarantees driving an HOA, and then that being one of the responsibilities of the HOA with an assessment to the units. How that works typically. Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Nick, do you see anybody else with comments?
Yes, I'm seeing a hand now. Kyle would like to speak, so I'll promote now.
Fantastic. Hello, Kyle.
Kyle?
Hi, I just wanted to chime in and just remind the board that the request is for a master plan amendment. So I'd recommend trying to focus comments, especially to the Planning Commission, in regards to what the request is. We don't have a tentative map or major site plan review request at this time for this project. I know John showed you a lot of detail and stuff in the presentation. I'm not sure that Planning Commission is going to get that same level of detail because it is just a master plan amendment at this point. They will have to come through with a tentative map and probably a major site plan review in the future to develop the end product. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there just kind of as a reminder, just because I'm not really sure what the Planning Commission is going to see at this point.
Got it. Thank you, Kyle. You know how we roll, Kyle. We've always asked a million questions in advance of whatever it is that people, bring before us. So thank you again so much. We're just also curious. But the great news is that these guys did such an amazing presentation. When they come back to us, they've already got their questions answered. So it's wonderful.
Well, You know, Mimi, the reason too that you wonder why we didn't package this all together, maybe somebody based on what Kyle just said, but the master plan amendment intake is quarterly. You probably know that. So we got going on that, and then we're working on the development application for the tentative map and the zone change going together. That was the idea here.
Well, you guys always do such a great job with your presentations, and you did provide us so much data that everybody got all excited and wants to ask all their questions. So
Yeah, it is getting into the weeds on a master plan amendment, but I appreciate
sure.
all this. It makes us all prepared for the detail. No
exactly.
question.
So when
I have a question. Being a master plan amendment, so will it have to go to the planning, the Truckee Meadows Planning Commission?
That is correct for conformance review, right,
Right.
Naomi?
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking.
Yes.
Okay,
That is a
and to
fact.
Kyle, I agree with Mimi in that, you know, no one does a master plan amendment in a vacuum. Like they're planning a project. So, you know, one begets the other. It's just like annexation leads to land coming into the city to be developed. And our attorneys always say that we should stop right there. That's the best place to stop. So as a project moves through the steps in the cycle, they get closer and closer to a tentative map and then a building permit. And so I think it's, you know, appropriate. And they just said they're planning to bring it all together is what I think I heard.
Well,
On the
I don't know.
project,
I don't know that that's the case. Based on what John just said, it sounds like they're on two different tracks. So basically, the planning commission would hear the master plan amendment first.
Okay.
The council would hear the master plan amendment first as well, and then the tentative map and physical development would follow.
Yeah.
So.
And zoning too, Kyle. Together, that's what I said,
zoning.
right? Yes. Yes.
I mean, you could just offer it, John, but you could put the master plan amendment on hold and have all of them roll together. That's what we're doing on another project of mine that's kind of similar, just to kind of have them all roll together. That way you can present it this way and not get confused about what the request is.
With all the detail. Yeah, that's why we got into the detail. I mean, that was tentative map detail tonight, you know, and use permit type of detail. Exactly on the slope analysis. But we want to show
regardless how you want to package it, regardless of how you want to
Yeah.
package it, it's good. The NAB just wants to understand and know, and I did too. So
Yes, fair enough.
And great job on the presentation, you guys. Great maps. We appreciate
you.
that. And when you guys come back before us again, probably this summer, then we're going to be informed, and we're going to breeze through, move with the next phases. So we really appreciate that so much.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for all your feedback and questions.
Any other questions from the board or any other members of the public? Do you see anybody, Nick?
No hands raised in the audience.
Okay, excellent. Well, yes, John, and Jim, and Jennifer, thank you so much for hanging in with us at this late hour.
Thank you.
This evening. We appreciate it so much, and your thoroughness and your explanation. So, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys back for master plan, zoning / tentative map, all of the above.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, have a good night, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I have one more question on before you jump off, unless they already have.
Is that Naomi?
When
Okay.
when will you do like the geoengineering, in terms of like your earthquake review? I know there's earthquakes just on the property next to you. And I remember there was
You're
one
right.
along the westernmost boundary of the Canyons project that probably lines up with this. So it's just,
We will do it. Oh, sorry.
A tentative.
Yes, a tentative map. It's an actual requirement. That's when we'll actually have the geotech.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. By the way, I've talked to Mr. Dolan about that, and he's going to do design level geotech, knowing about some of the geotechnical issues in the area. So it's important to know what you're up against, as opposed to what is called a preliminary geotech report. So that's what we've talked about.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Okay.
Good question, Councilman.
Is that it?
That's appropriate. I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your feedback. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're gonna blaze right through this. Board, commission, committee member reports and announcements. Anybody have anything to say at this point to add? Hearing none, hearing crickets. Okay, we'll move
Wait,
on.
I do have one thing for,
Oh, hi,
can I say
Laura.
something? Is it under good and welfare? Can I say something there, or is it? Are you getting down there?
Yeah, if you have something to add, is this a future agenda item, Mara, or something different?
No, just a good and wealth, like just something to share.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so we were talking about Councilwoman Dewar is giving funds to Damani Ranch to have their picnic table. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're
But
welcome.
the high school also has events to raise money for scholarships for our seniors. And 2 events are coming up in April. One is called Crashing in the Corral, where Principal spends the night. Principal Bell spends the night outside at the flagpole, which is really fun. And then the second one is going to be, Are You Smarter Than a High Schooler? A trivia night on. So I'll be sure to update Nick with that information to share with everyone in case you're interested in participating.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for any announcements this evening? Julia.
I'll add one. April 20th, TMCC is going to be celebrating Earth Day.
Yay.
And so we couldn't figure out what the city was doing or if we're doing anything, but I think we picked a Wednesday or something, so it shouldn't conflict with any other activities, but hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. And as we have more information, I'll let you all know.
That'll be great. It's nice to get back to our community events. Thank you so much, Julia. Okay, so moving on to item number D, do we have any future agenda items? Anybody want to add anything? Nick, did you pick up stuff from the meeting today that we want to talk about?
Yeah, I heard a few things, mostly having RPD come back regarding the crime statistics to answer your questions. Not a future agenda item, but I forgot to mention in my report. I just want to let everyone know that I will be gone next month. I will be at the National League of Cities.
Nice.
So no Amy will probably be covering for me. Just
Okay.
so everyone here knows, including Councilwoman Dewar.
We'll miss you for sure. Do you know, Nick, if we're going to be back at Moana Lane next month?
I know that we have the room reserved. That's a decision for the board and Councilmember Dewar.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, this is, while the Zoom is fun, I really like our in-person meetings personally. So, and with that, if there's no other future, Councilwoman Dewar, any future agenda items?
No.
Okay, great. All right. And any other public comment? Anybody left?
My last
Okay.
comment is amazing attendance and attention here tonight. Very long meeting, lots of detail, lots of presentations, and you guys really did a great job.
I agree. The board crushed it today. Good job, everyone. This is just one of many, I think, to come throughout the rest of our year. So everybody, it was good practice. Well, with that, I'm going to, and we don't have any public comment out there. I'm going to, anybody would like to move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
No. And we didn't hear from Steve. I don't know if Steve is still on here too.
Steve, where are you?
Oh, I'm right here, baby. You can't get rid of me.
Oh man, Steve, you were way too quiet tonight. I'm like, Steve, what's up? Well, great to see everyone. Thank you so much. We've got a motion and a second to adjourn. Everybody have a great rest of your February, and we'll see everybody next month.
Nice playoff beard, Tyler.
Wait, what?
Nice playoff beard.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Getting ready for the political season.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All
All right,
everybody,
see
good
y'all.
night. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.